It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott is here. Richard Campbell is here. We've got a spicy whiskey. Bill Gates warning about the dangers of AI. And translucent Xbox controllers. Plus a thumbstick you can sit on. It's all coming up next on Windows Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell, episode 998, recorded Wednesday, August 26th, 2026. Laptop Fort. Hey, all you winners and dozers. Sorry, I didn't mean to wake you dozers. It's time for Windows Weekly, the show where we talk about the latest from Microsoft with these two handsome cats right here. Mr. Paul Thurrott, who's, it looks like, is still in Lower Macungie, PA. Or are you in Upper Macungie now?
No, it's Lower Macungie.
It's very lower.
The superior Macungie.
The better Macungie. On the right side of the tracks, he is, of course, the man in charge of Thurrott.com, the eponymous. They ever call it the eponymous blog site, Thurrott.com?
Yeah, I don't know who they is, but yeah, maybe. It is, I suppose.
Those folks.
Those people.
Those people. Mm-hmm. He is also the author of many fine volumes, all of which are available at leanpub.com. And, look who's here. The host of Run As Radio and .NET Rocks, the wonderful, charming Canadian who still doesn't hate us. The one Canadian who still doesn't resent the United States of America.
You're not making it easy, let me tell you.
I know. Pretty soon we're going to have to embargo you, Mr. Richard Campbell. Good to see you.
Or at least tariff me. Here, it's a little windy outside.
Oh, it's beautiful in Mad Park. He's looking out over the sound.
Yeah, the wind's blowing in from the southwest. Bit of white capping out there, but it's blowing all the smoke away. It's pretty nice.
Are there fires still burning?
There are fires in the interior, and so we've had some inversion winds going that have pulled the smoke out to us, which is, I mean, we got it pretty easy that we have some smoke compared to the folks who've lost homes.
No, I know. It's terrible.
It's been a very tough year.
And we're going to have a bad fire year here in Northern California, I fear.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, we already had a few, as you know.
As we know.
One during the show a couple of weeks ago.
And as much as all of the current things going on are crazy stupid, you also know that there'll be Canadian crews down there fighting them with you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Assuming we let you into the country, but we'll see.
Just don't drive those Chinese EVs down here.
There you go. We got Mexican crews up here fighting fires with us too.
Yeah. You know what?
There's a lot of good people on this continent when you think about it.
Yeah. It's really true.
Funny, huh?
You know?
It's really focus on what's important.
Oh, well.
Just want to say that just because we have a representative government doesn't mean it represents all of us. That's all I'm going to say.
It's getting a little less representative by the minute.
By the minute.
Yeah.
But enough of that. We're not here to talk politics. We're here to talk Microsoft, Windows, and all of that jazz.
There's no politics in that at all.
Well, I saw Bill Gates' latest missive.
Yeah.
Which he said,
nothing problematic about that guy.
We're all going to die.
Great.
Pretty sure he was, well, we'll talk about that.
There's no inoculations for AI, kids. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Let's talk about Week D.
Well, that's going to be a brief conversation, Leo, because it is Week D.
Yes.
And yesterday was the Tuesday of Week D.
Yes.
And yesterday, Microsoft released nothing.
Oh.
Wow.
Now, it has missed the Tuesday here and there. The Tuesday of Week D is not as important as Patch Tuesday. But I'm starting to wonder, last week, I think it was, we talked about, probably last week, whatever the most recent release preview builds were as a kind of preview of what we would see this Week D if they had shipped it, and eventually probably will. And then also a preview of the next Patch Tuesday, right, from for September. And if you look at the makeup of those builds, this is the big stuff that Microsoft announced for this year, right? The new Start menu, the new taskbar, the new Windows search, the new widgets, on and on it goes. So in a way, this could be 26H2, right? I mean, essentially, right?
Yeah.
These things don't matter as much as they used to, but the timing kind of makes sense. So, we'll see what happens here. But as of, I actually usually forget, Week D on that Tuesday and then Patch Tuesday. I would say, what are we in the 8th month? So 16 of those. I've probably forgotten 15 of the 16 on that day that it was that day. Right. And yesterday, for some reason, I was super busy, but very late in the day, I was like, wait a minute, it's week D. I should look this up. And I checked, and there was nothing. And I checked again this morning, and I checked again right before the show. And nothing.
They can wait till the show's over, then publish.
I mean, it could happen anytime. It might not even happen this week, like it's because this is the big one. I think they do want to get this one right, but they have not said anything about it. So I don't know what the reason or excuse is, but as of the start of this show, at least, we do not have new builds yet, preview builds this week, this week, but we'll see. That could still happen.
Do you think it's still summer effects, or do you think it's like they're still changing the whole workflow? I'm still got a pretty positive mood over Pavan and what's been going on.
No, I'm not. This isn't a complaint. It's more just a little strange. It's not a big deal. I mean, it's happened before. It's it's not a hard schedule, but I mean, this is the big one, right? So you kind of, I'm tracking this one a little more closely, and it's actually
you care a lot about week D.
Yeah, I'm a big week D guy.
Because it's a telegraph of what happens next.
It's one of those steps, right? As we get to
you getting ahead on your writing.
So what do you mean by it's the big one?
So this is the one this year. Remember, they're doing the pain points thing, right? And so there's a whole laundry list of stuff that they've talked about, and then the stuff I mentioned last week that they haven't really talked about at all. But they're fixing a lot of the stuff that's wrong with Windows 11 this year. And if you think about the big bucket features, which is the new start menu, the new taskbar, we can move around to the different sides of the screen again. The new Windows search, which actually works for a change, which is 20 years coming.
Not going to believe it.
I know. The new widgets, which is configured the way I always configured widgets anyway. Turn off all the notifications, prevent the mouse over thing from firing the widgets thing off, etc. That's all in this build. So or this build. It's not really a build, but it's all coming in this week D, and then in next month's Patch Tuesday.
Wow.
So it's the big one. But
except for that part where it wasn't.
It's not there yet. Well, but again, it's not a big deal. It is in release preview, right? So there's some round of testing occurring there. Maybe they found something. Maybe it required a couple extra days. Who knows?
Yeah.
I do expect to see it this week for whatever that's worth. The one question I have is whether the thing we get for Patch Tuesday is a preview update, which means you have to opt into it, or if it's a stable update where you just kind of automatically get it. Because historically, not always, but typically the big annual update comes out in October. But they've gone plus or minus on that by a month, so even that's not a hard and fast rule. So we'll see. I mean, right now all we can do is guess.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then in the inside a program, I have such a hard time remember when anything happens. This probably must be Friday. Yeah, Friday. So Friday they released 3 builds, which is not as many as they have been. They've been often done 5 in recent months, but beta,
the ARM and everything else schism.
The whole, it's just. I mean, they try to pretend there's like 2 channels in this thing for some reason, and this is like 7, but whatever. So, 4
channels, and a few of them have an arm leg.
Yeah. A few of them have branches for sure. So, I've lost track of my original post here. Couple of things in here. One is So this is what I was talking about last week. These little things that they're kind of doing. So you can think about like File Explorer got dark mode at some point, but then the sub windows of File Explorer did not. I think, let me just look at this thing. I think it's still like that and stable. Yep. Yeah. So if you do like folder options in File Explorer or a file, actually, I think file transfer maybe is one of the ones they did modernize, but it's haphazard, right? So they've been kind of going through the UI and modernizing things. There's been work on the run dialog, which is
modernizing actually purging JavaScript.
I can't promise that.
De-reacting pro Win UI.
Yeah, not yet. So most of the modernizing is just like a surface level Win UI thing, right?
Right.
And when you move a UI from whatever it was before, some kind of Win32, whatever, or possibly WPF, but probably just went straight up Win32.
Right.
You get benefits of things that, Windows has had for a long time that these things do not support, like automatic light and dark mode support, right? So if the system's in dark mode, that dialog will be in dark mode. Nice. High DPI support, et cetera. So text scaling, whatever it might be. So in these builds, I don't know if it's in I think it is in all of them. They're modernized in the AutoPlay experience. So if you've ever plugged in a USB drive or whatever, you would have seen this, which is this total Windows 8 UI. Like it's literally from Windows 8. So it's bizarre because there's two UIs depending on what you're doing. So it goes up in the corner. And it says, what do you want to do with this thing or with this type of thing? Like, so it's a removable drive. Like, what do you want to do? And so I usually just click like, don't ever do anything. I never see it again. But if there's a BitLocker protection, BitLocker to go on that drive, then you get another dialog that also appears. I think it's the upper right of the screen for some reason, which is not where anything ever appears. I'm sure it was originally up there so you could, touch it with your thumbs or something. It looks like nothing else in Windows. It's bizarre. If you don't address the dialogue, you misclick or something, or just don't see it, it goes away, whatever it is. It doesn't appear in Notification Center. Obviously doesn't do light and dark mode. So it's inconsistent from a visual perspective. It's inconsistent from a functionality perspective. It's just a kind of a bizarre UI. So these builds have a modern version of that experience. It's a window that appears right in the middle of the screen. It looks, it's WinUI based. It supports light dark mode. It does all the, the text scaling and high DPI stuff, whatever it might be. And if you miss it, or you misclick or you close it or whatever, it will, well, actually, if you close it, it goes away. But if you miss it, it will appear in Notification Center, which is what notifications are supposed to do. So nice. I have not seen this yet. In fact, I was just thinking about this before the show. I got to get some more laptops going, either get them updated or actually just get them in the Insider program to keep up on this stuff. But that's kind of cool.
Sorry, you said you need more laptops?
No. I have too many laptops. What I need are more. No, I don't need more laptops. I need more laptops that are configured for the Windows Insider program. So I get, or the truth is I probably have several. I just don't have them running right now. I've been trying to just leave them alone. I have too many computers. Anyway, I do want to test this and other things, right? So there's this, right? The other thing is kind of an interesting accessibility feature, which I feel like they could go a little further with this, but they've added a new option in settings, accessibility. I think it's visual effects, called Open Apps Maximized. It's just a toggle. If you turn it on, every app you open will open maximized. It's an accessibility thing, because it's in accessibility settings, but like many accessibility settings, I could picture people liking this. Like one of the things I really like in certain Linux distributions is the ability to always open windows centered on the screen. Windows, the operating system, is kind of strange because depending, some apps do an okay job of remembering. One app that I have a particular problem with is like Slack, for example. I always maximize Slack on a laptop, but it always opens like kind of 80% of the screen for some reason. Sure. And you maximize it, you close it, bring it back, it's 80%. Like it just won't remember the thing. Okay.
The new Outlook opening a calendar on a portrait screen, it tries to fill the portrait screen. Yeah, I have a calendar entry that's 9 feet tall. Nobody needs this, and you cannot stop it from doing it. I feel
on phones, I feel like we need per app rotation, right? So in other words, if you have a rotation feature in your phone that's global, so you rotate obviously, and if the app supports it, it will flip around. I feel like you just want to have that be on in the system, but then you want to go into apps and be like, no, never will this app go portrait or whatever it is. And on desktop systems, I like the idea of opening centered. I love the idea of here's the size I want or the position, remember it, but this is a per app thing. Some apps are really good at this, some aren't. Then you get in the File Explorer thing where like you open multiple windows and the first one kind of opens semi-randomly on screen unless you only had one open before and it will open there, I guess. But then Windows key plus E, and it kind of cascades them down, but then it hits the thing and it jumps up to the far side of the screen, whatever. Like this seems like it's the type of thing that probably wouldn't bother too many people, but for those people that really actually care, but that these things remember, it'd be kind of nice if this was just a standard, always worked kind of OS feature. So I like Maximized. Maximized is useful for a laptop, for sure. Especially if you're used to multiple screens or just big screens, whatever it is at a desk. Go down to a laptop, even if it's a pretty big screen, it's like, well, actually here I do want that thing maximized all the time. So I could picture using that. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, without a doubt. Oh, I just realized my windows are opening perfectly on Outlook on this machine because I turned off new Outlook.
There you go. I was like, that's weird. Oh, I see.
Why is that working? Oh,
Right.
yeah, totally makes sense.
Right.
I got so frustrated with it, I shut it off, and now it doesn't bother me anymore.
There you go. Yeah, that will do it. Yeah, but doctor,
It's very
it's
satisfying.
like my knee hurts every time I do this. It's like, stop doing that.
Stop doing that. Yeah.
Right.
Doctor, why does it hurt when I hit my head with a hammer?
Why am I feeling so good? Oh, I turned off new Outlook. Right. That's why.
Yep.
My goodness.
It's possible. I'm just saying, having less experience than almost any developer on earth, you can write an app that will always remember where it was. I mean, you could just do this. I've done it.
Oh, gosh.
I know it's easy.
It's harder on web tools, which is actually what the new Outlook is, right?
That could be
web driven. That's
Come
why they're
on, you
struggling
have
with
local storage. It's not like you can't save something to the drive that says where you were.
that. What a good idea.
What a thought.
Yepper. So
Unless everybody's blocking cookies, in which case, maybe that's why they don't do it. Who knows?
I don't know the answer to that.
it's kind of laziness. But
Well,
I don't
you know what I do know is I use lots of different web apps, and none of them make me as angry as the new Outlook.
Well, there's a benchmark.
There's still, this thing, there's like
The Angry Richard benchmark.
There's still I'm just trying to figure out a way to do this. Like, you have to do a shortcut. So if you have like a shortcut to an app of whatever kind, you can right click at properties, and there's in that properties, there's no way I can't really bring it up to show myself, but there, legacy Windows, there was a way, like, remember where this thing was, or you could specify, like, I always want this thing to be, minimized or maximized or whatever. Like, this is the thing. Like, Windows could, Windows could force this on apps, like, right. And the fact that there's an option coming that will let you open all apps maximized tells you that Windows could take the next step and say, always remember this thing, like for every app, like just do it. But
One of the scripts I was complaining about earlier today that are just making fun of the tool because it was messing it up is a script that does exactly that. When I go, my reflex as soon as I record a show is to copy it off this machine, right? It has to be somewhere else or it could be lost. And I don't like losing shows. It ruins my day. So as soon as I plug I have a storage device plugged into the Rode. As soon as I plug it into the PC, I have a script that runs that pops all the windows for where I'm going to copy it to.
there you go.
Right. So like there's three folder windows I need. One is the drive. The other is the local storage that's properly organized. The other one is, the production folder out of the cloud. And it just, I realize you open those over and over and over. And so it's like, you spend a couple of minutes with Copilot, you can write a script. And it wasn't enough to I want it to pop. It said, I want them to pop right like this.
Right.
So that
This is
configure here, move there, done.
Yep. You're already done, so you don't need this. But I feel like fancy zones. I think in PowerToys kind of does this. I believe there's ways to do it, but
no, I brute forced it with Copilot.
Yeah,
and a certain amount of software taunting of software, and it got there.
I like the threatening nature of that. It's good.
Oh no, you have to taunt the software. Right? It's like, it's not working. Here's the error message. You iterate again. It wants me to just change a couple of lines. It's like, except you don't tell me what lines you want me to change. You say somewhere around here, do this, and somewhere around there. It's like, just give me the code again. And honestly, it's like, but I don't want to.
I don't want to.
Yeah, it's like, listen, I don't want whiny personality from software. I just want
oh boy.
We can. You want to talk a little bit about hardware in just a second? Are you a hardware guy?
Not really, but
I am. But
Come on, you have more laptops than anybody I know.
I did. Yeah, I built a little fort with them the other day. But I mean, normally,
I just doled another 3 out to some students. So
It's too bad the kids aren't little, because I just would love to see that. It's funny with all the toys
with laptops.
we bought Henry and Abby when they were little. The one they loved the best were these cardboard bricks. I spent Christmas Eve assembling out of flat cardboard into what looked like bricks. They would play with that for hours, building forts and stuff. Now your kids can do it the modern way, with Lenovo laptops.
Look, I made a roof with a yoga.
every fall now, it seems like I have a nephew or a niece that's going off to college or something, and then my sister or somebody will call me and be like, "Hey, do you have any laptops?" I'm like, "Yeah, I can give you 13 or 14 of them, but."
Good. I'm going to refer those calls to you because I get them too. And unlike you, I have no extra laptops. There are no laptops flowing out my door.
Every machine he has is currently running at 90 degrees centigrade.
You kind of forget, I brought up this laptop. I thought this kid he'd want one that could play games, pretty good. So I found this thing that was like a 64 gigs of RAM, 2 terabyte SSD. Wow. And, I get this thing all ready for him, and I'm like, hey, by the way, this thing is awesome, for video games and blah, blah. And he goes, yeah, I don't actually play video games. And I was like, then I will take that back. You're an idiot.
You should have told him it's good for AI. He would have jumped.
I did. I just in talking to him for like a couple of minutes, I was like, he just doesn't care. He was not interested. He needs it for school or something. Yeah, how is it Outlook? Well, it's like everything else with Outlook. It's terrible. So it's consistent in that regard. But
that's the old quote, right? 65 threads, none of them are for you.
Right.
Yeah. Keith in our Discord says, I thought Leo had loads of laptops. So does everybody I know. I get calls all the time. And you got an extra iPad? No. We buy everything. We don't have any extras. Yeah, I even bought these silly AI machines. I spend my own money on this stuff. Yep. I ain't giving
I have a pipeline of a few different businesses. They sysadmins all run as people.
Oh, right? You're good because you do the charity work too.
That's just getting them the kids who need them.
Yeah,
that's all.
Yeah.
So we got a couple more out this.
Actually, Burke has all my laptops, right? Let's take a little break, a little time out. He also has my original 128K Mac.
Wow. Vintage.
Yeah, I gave him something pretty special.
I have a friend who just literally this week texted me a photo of the original Surface Pro.
Wow.
And it was updating or something. And I was like,
that thing's running?
I was right. I was like, are you using that? I mean, it seemed inconceivable to me. And he's like, no, it was holding up something in the closet, and I decided to see if it would come on. And then it did come on, and I was like, well, I'll send Paul a picture of this. He'll appreciate this. And I was like,
I can't tell you how many bricked original surfaces I've had.
Yeah. I mean, that thing's like an inch thick, too. It's like a tablet that's like this.
It was ideal for catching dinner, right? You just kill a small animal with it.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, it's still, it's the thing's, what is it, 14 years old? Still
something like that, yeah.
Crazy.
Crazy for... I gave Burke the 128K because actually John Chamberby gave it to me. It was in our studio, or it was his, I think. Mm-hmm. And but the caps died, and Burke sent it back, but it came out... I don't know if he shrunk it or what.
You put it in the dryer. You're supposed to hang dry those things.
A lot smaller.
That's why you don't put those things in rice. I don't know how many articles we need about that.
Sucked out of it. Our show today, we'll have more with Paul and Richard and Windows Weekly in just a bit. Our show today brought to you by Thinks Canary. I would show you my Canary, but it's running in my wire closet vitally because everybody needs at least one Thinks Canary. I'd say you need one for every network segment you've got, which means if you're a small business, you might have a few. If you're a big bank, you might have hundreds. What is it? Oh, I should tell you. It is a honeypot. Done. Oh, so perfect. I remember talking to Bill Cheswick, who wrote the first honeypot, or at least the first one anybody know about, and he said it was darn hard. But times have changed, and the folks at Thinks have figured out how to make an appliance that can look like anything. It can look like a Windows server. It can look like a SharePoint server, an Exchange server. It can look like a Linux box with all the services turned on like a Christmas tree. It can look like a Windows 95 machine with just port 139 open. It can look like anything you want. Mine's a Synology NAS right now. I shouldn't probably mention that. But the good news is it's easy to change. Now, here's the thing. Looks like doesn't mean it is. It is a honeypot. It's designed to attract, not flies in this case, but bad guys. See, how do you know if somebody has breached your perimeter defenses and is inside? We hear about breaches every single day, dozens of them, every single day. This is the best way to make money if you're a bad actor. You break into somebody's system, you take all their data, you plant some time bombs, some ransomware time bombs, and then, boom, you leave. You hold the data. You say, if you ever want to see your data again, you will pay us money. And if you don't, I have all this customer data that I'm gonna put on the public internet. So there. And most of the time, companies pay millions and millions of dollars to get that data back. It's a fact of life now. And the problem is that if somebody breaches your defenses, you don't know they're there. On average, it takes a company 3 months, 91 days, before they know they've been breached. And in those 91 days, bad guys can do a lot of bad stuff. Lots of it. That's why you have the Things Canaries. They are honeypots. You can deploy them in minutes. They can impersonate anything, and it's a perfect impersonation down to the MAC address, the interface, everything's perfect. They make these canary tokens. They're files you could put anywhere. They look like the real thing, but if the bad guy accesses your Things Canary, tries to open your fake open SSH server, right? Or tries to open one of those files, those Microsoft Word documents. I have spreadsheets on my Google Drive, for instance, that say payroll information. How could a hacker resist that, right? But the minute they open it, you know you have a problem. You get an alert. Text, email, Slack, webhooks, syslog, whatever you want. No false alerts, just the alerts that matter. Choose a profile for your Things Canary device, register with a hosted console for monitoring and notifications, and then relax. Anybody who's breached your network, even insiders, malicious insiders, cannot help but make themselves known by accessing your Things Canary. And in fact, because now I have so much, going on my network, I thought, I got to get my Things Canary up and make sure I know if somebody's in my network. So how many you get depends on, how many important things you have on your network. But if you go to canary.tools/twit, I'll give you an example. Just $7,500 a year would get you 5 of them, 5 Things Canaries, and that includes your own hosted console, upgrades, support, maintenance, the works. Oh, and if you use the code TWIT in the How Did You Hear About Us box, you're going to get 10% off, and not just for the first year, but forever, as long as you have your Things Canaries. Oh, one more thing. If you're at all, I don't know, you can always return your Things Canary. They've got a 2-month, 60-day money-back guarantee for a full refund. I should tell you, we've been doing ads for the Things Canary for more than a decade now, and no one has yet asked for that refund. Not one. Because once you get one, you'll go, I don't know how I live without it, and you're going to get more. Visit canary.tools/twit. Enter the code TWIT in the How Did You Hear About Us box. Things Canary. You need this thing. Canary.tools/twit. Use the offer code TWIT. And we thank him so much for supporting Windows Weekly. I'm excited. Here comes the Windows RTX Spark. No?
All right. So yesterday, or whatever this was, I guess yesterday, Apple announced some new Macs. They announced new Apple Silicon chips, right?
Yep.
M6.
You can sit there and go through the configurator and say you're about to spend $5,700 to get one of these stupid things.
Oh no! Oh, you haven't tried hard enough.
Oh no,
If you
I didn't
get the
try it all.
256 gig version, which everybody running a local AI was going to want, 10,000 plus.
Yeah.
Almost $11,000.
Let's see if I can find this. So last summer, I bought at the time, I think it was a $600 Snapdragon X HP laptop, but it only came with a 256 gigabyte SSD. So I swapped it out for a 1 terabyte Crucial SSD, which was about $85 US.
Right.
If you upgrade one of these new Macs to, I think it's 1 terabyte SSD, or each terabyte of SSD is like $1,000.
Wow.
Like, and look,
Does it
I
dance?
know things are more expensive than they were, but they're not that much more expensive. Like, it's kind of highway robbery, but whatever. I'm not here to make fun of Apple. I could do that anytime. But I thought it was kind of weird that on the day that Apple announced the new chips and new Macs, you know, the Mac Mini and Mac Studio, Microsoft came out with this Windows on ARM. I'm not going to call it an announcement because there's no announcement here, but a post that just a reminder. Don't forget about me.
Yeah.
I'm over here too. We have this thing happening, and I'm still confused by it. In fact, the more I look into this, the more confused I am. So to be fair, this could be coincidental. A year ago in September, Microsoft had a similar blog post that was basically about kind of momentum in the Windows on ARM space. And what it's aimed at is the businesses that are just change averse and are worried about compatibility, even though that really is not a problem. And they just, you know, it's like, no, I'm sorry, we have to buy Intel. That's all we do. You know, just kind of a silly whatever they do. So every so often, Microsoft pops up like a whack-a-mole thing. It's like, hey, by the way, we also have an ARM chipset or chipset soon. Compatibility is great. And so last September, they provided sort of a compatibility update, basically, right? Which, you know, I feel like this was nailed about 2 years ago, but okay, fine. And then just reminding businesses, hey, we have this, there's a Works on Windows on ARM website, which is a third-party site, not a Microsoft site, not a Qualcomm site. They list over 7,000 apps and games that are verified, whatever verified means, to work on Windows and ARM. They miss a lot of things. It's horribly out of date. I'm not even sure why they're promoting this, but whatever, it exists. They have an app assure program within Microsoft with a dedicated ARM advisory service, right? And then they have they'll work with OEMs, they'll work with partners, they'll work with software makers to, you know, make sure they can get stuff running on these devices. But the truth is pretty much everything runs. It's kind of a strange thing. But they announced dozens of apps across, I think it's 4 major categories, STEM and education apps, security apps, productivity apps, and creativity. Well, creativity, social media, and entertainment apps, right? Like entertainment, but not games, right? Even though Nvidia is actually netting a couple of wins in that space, you know. But I'm looking at these things and I'm like, I don't understand what they're talking about. So presumably, if this is this year's version of the last year's kind of compatibility update, you know, which it is. I mean, it seems like it is, right? And they're listing these apps like. These are apps that should have been brought to ARM since last September, right?
Right.
Like Affinity is in here. Proton Mail is in here. These are not new additions. You know, like one I just looked up, I think it must be in the productivity section, is Proton Drive, right? Proton Drive has had a kind of a big year. They were adding a CLI. They're eventually going to have a Linux client. And I was like, okay, did they add a native ARM client on Windows sometime between last September and now? And I looked it up and the answer is no, they did it a year ago, April. So why is it on the list? I don't like that's not a new thing. There's stuff in here. And again, certified doesn't necessarily mean native, right? It just means that it runs, you know. There are things in here like Apple Bonjour, ShareX, which is a screenshot utility, pretty common. It's TechSmith apps.
Wow.
TechSmith is Camtasia and what's their screenshot program? I forgot anyway, but a famous screenshot program.
Yeah, and a Zoom tool and
and it's like okay, but I mean, like
nothing of this is new.
No, I've used these.
Some of these are even day one.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I've used these on ARMs in some cases for years, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, some of these things I don't have a lot to say about, like security apps. I don't recognize most of these things. STEM and education apps. I'm like, these are like Game Pass titles. I have never heard of any of these things, but whatever. Some of them are
because when ARM first shipped, it was games that were broken because of the anti-cheat stuff.
Yep.
And some of the the security stuff and so forth. Some of those things were broken again because of low-level stuff. Did
I mention the Quake thing last week? Did I bring this up? Because this is a weird one. I almost wrote about this, and maybe I still will. But when some weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, was the 30th anniversary of Quake, the original Quake, right? And to celebrate this, id Software released a new episode of 9 levels or whatever it is, and I think there was a multiplayer level, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm like, oh, this is amazing. Like, I want to go get this, right? So I had with me at the time a Snapdragon X2 laptop, which is ARM. Like, this game is 30 years old. Obviously, it's going to run fine on here. Like, I run Half-Life 2 on ARM laptops, no problem. Yeah. So the thing installs in 2 seconds. It's like 1.6 gigabytes. It's not like 165 gigabytes like a typical Call of Duty install. Spins right up, awesome. And it would not run. It would just, like, it booted into a black screen, and then it crashed. And I'm like, oh, okay, so maybe this is some kind of ARM, compatibility issue, whatever. Okay. So later I tried this on a gaming PC. I tried it on a different laptop. And in both cases, it did exactly the same thing. And these were x86 computers, not ARM. Now, if I didn't do that, I wasn't testing it per se. I wanted to play the game. But if I didn't do that work, I guess I would have assumed it was just a weird Snapdragon compatibility issue. And I did all the stuff you can do, to make it run well on ARM, but there was nothing I could do. But now it's not running on x86. So I looked up, like, what do you do when this happens? And all of the advice was when you get it through, like, Steam, or I think you can get it through GOG or whatever. And, it's basically like a normal Windows app, what we might call a desktop app. And I was like, I don't think that's what the Xbox version is. I bet it's some kind of weird modern wrapper thing. And so none of the advice that I saw worked. So I went to Steam and I downloaded it from there, and it had the same crash. But now the workaround, because you can find the EXE more easily, like WindQuake is in there and GLQuake is in there, and those actually ran, but they just look crappy. But then you add
an emulator.
Yeah. Essentially what you're doing is adding like a dash DX11 something that makes it run under DX11 instead of DirectX 12, and it works fine. And it works fine on ARM. And that's a weird compatibility problem. So, like, if you get it from anywhere but Xbox, meaning Windows on it, or Xbox on Windows, or, the Microsoft Store, however you want to say that, it works fine, or it will work fine. I don't understand why no one else noticed this. It's like, just released a big update to this game. Did no one run this thing? I mean, like, so anyway, you can have compatibility problems anywhere, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And it's not always obvious what the thing is. But when I look at these lists of these apps rather, I'm like, okay. I mean, I don't really see what the big deal is here. I don't quite understand this. So on the day that
ARM uptake isn't great.
It is absolutely not great. Yeah. Right.
But
which doesn't make any sense.
I don't even blame ARM for that. I blame Copilot Plus PC for that.
See, I blame Intel for it. But and I mean that. I mean, I'm not. I know it sounds like a joke, but it's it is. This is the end result of decades of Intel behaving anti-competitively to pay off PC makers to ship more of their chips and other chips, and it's still the case. You can look at any PC maker. If a PC maker has 100 models, 90 of them are Intel, 9 are AMD, and 1 is Snapdragon. That's an exaggeration, but it's
I don't think it's that much of an exaggeration. Like, you're definitely in that ballpark.
Yep, it's really bad. Yeah. And this is the thing. Like, I sort of joke about this. This is real, and my wife knows this. Richard has seen it. You open a ARM laptop and it comes right on. And I know that's a stupid thing to celebrate, but if you use a Windows PC, you're pretty used to that not happening. And
and it's one of the many things that people really love about their MacBooks.
Yep.
Right? Is just works.
So you can get this today if you get a Snapdragon based Copilot Plus PC or whatever they're called now. But you don't see too many of them. And certainly from a, like a sales / availability perspective, it's a small percentage. It's too bad. So, but NVIDIA's coming, right? And so, someone had asked me about this separately, just on my site, do I think like NVIDIA is going to change this? And the reality is no, not really. I mean, this will be important for that segment of the market that is today rushing to buy a Mac Mini while they can, because they want to do local AI, because they're either engineers or developers or scientists or whatever it might be.
Somebody got their token bill.
Yep. But it's just not a big deal for mainstream people, right?
You don't, just to be clear, you don't save money doing this locally, probably. They're so expensive, and you can get such cheap models now on the frontier that, like a GPT Luna or a DeepSeek. You do it because you want sovereignty. You want it to be private. You're using company data.
Yeah, but you get your price tag from racking a huge bill with Claude, right?
Yeah.
Like, the way I go to my CFO is first spend $10,000 on Claude. Then go, hey, you know what? Spark's $8,500. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
we don't know what percentage of PCs that are sold every year are sold to businesses, but let's say it's the historical percentage, which is like 2/3 of them probably. It's probably more than that, frankly, but whatever. Businesses that are the big, enterprises are buying fleets of laptops. They're paving them the second they get them, whatever. So they want that, they want that thing that they understand. They want that experience they are familiar with. They want it to always work the way it's always worked, whatever. I feel there's no reason ARM could not participate in that, but there's just, like I said, a change aversity thing. So,
well, and it's I know the guys who do the sales. I know a few guys who do sales to big companies where they are committing to 25,000 laptops this year spread over, over the months. And so like getting rid of the MPU is, $2.5 million, right? Like we don't know if we're going to use that. We're certainly not paying for it, right? Like once you're at that scale, you get your machine tailored to your needs. They're not buying Copilot Plus PCs.
What's the opposite of like a virtuous cycle? Like you set your expectations low, is how I would say it. But what they're really looking for is high compatibility with whatever workloads they're doing. So they might have these custom apps that, in some cases, might be decades old, but they will run on these x86 things. They will work perfectly. They don't have to think about it. Whether or not they're good or not is sort of beside the point. They just, look, this is what we're doing. It doesn't really matter. This is the reason people hate these computers, but whatever. But when you think about like whatever mix of computers might go into a business, I mean, depending on the business, obviously, I mean, there's scientific engineering, whatever. But those computers that I would classify as like workstations, very, very minor, market share, however you want to say it.
Sure.
There's not a lot of them. They're expensive per device, but there's not a lot of them from a unit sales perspective. No. And these Nvidia things, the Nvidia RTX Spark, the super chip based computers or whatever, like that Surface, what do they call it? Surface Laptop Ultra, I think it's called.
Yeah, the black.
The thing that's going to cost, $10,000. Yeah. They're not going to sell a lot of those, right? No. And is this going
that
to
was
change?
What they were intended for, right?
I'm right. Sorry, I didn't mean that. I wasn't suggesting that. Well, all I meant was this won't help move the needle on ARM, right? Like right now,
But marquee machines are good for a market too, right? It's like, wow, that's a very cool machine. I'm not paying that. What's my alternative? And they buy the cheaper ARM.
Yeah, no, right. I'm sorry. I'm not. I'm not complaining per se. I guess what I'm saying is, right now, any individual, unless you want to play AAA games on your laptop, right? We could leave that aside. 99 something percent of the apps and drivers and whatever it is that you need to get your work done every single day just works. Like it's like super, super compatible. That's been true for a long time. But no one's buying them now. So this thing is going to come, and Nvidia has relationships with game makers that Qualcomm does not. And I've already seen things about how certain games are going to be, and like we're going to start seeing finally native ports of games to ARM. Cool, but we've seen how that goes on the Mac. That's not going great over there either. But I just don't think it's going to change the overall where things are in the market. Like, I mean, ARM is wonderful. If you want it right now, it's great already, but it's also not even 10% of the market. So that's great for an individual. I can tell you that, and you might believe me or not believe me. It doesn't really matter. But anyone who buys these things, I've never heard from anyone who bought one of these and was like, wow, this thing is a real dog. It's really bad. Like they're always like, holy, like this thing works like awesome. Like, I know. That's usually the conversation. And it's still not doing anything. So it's like right here, what Microsoft is doing is trying to sell it to the businesses that are the most averse to even thinking about doing this. And will Nvidia change that? No, not by and large. It's gonna make hopefully these kinds of Windows PC more not that they're not already competitive, but more viable as an alternative maybe to whatever Mac things. And I think that might be a big chunk of the reason these things exist. I mean, it's not all of it, but I
remember they announced this 6 months ago, right?
Yeah, back in April or May.
Old design.
Yeah, no, this has been rumored for years. We've had that theory that Snapdragon or Qualcomm and Microsoft had some exclusivity arrangement.
It seems weird that somebody would want that much capability in a laptop, but I guess that's what people buy, right? That's what they buy.
Yeah, because you want if you want this is what I say about playing games on a laptop. There are certain niceties to an Xbox console. For example, if you configure it correctly, it will download game updates overnight, and you never have to worry about that. Whereas with a laptop, you open it up and you might sit there for half an hour while it downloads a game update. Stinks, right? But I can also carry the laptop into the next room and play there. I can carry it on a plane and play there. I can carry it to some other location where I'm traveling and play there. Like, the console is stuck on a TV in this one room, and it's not really portable unless you have a Switch or whatever. But so that there are pluses and minuses to it. But even when Qualcomm agreed to do this, when Terry Myerson was still running Windows 10, and he went out to Hawaii that year and everything, I was thinking, I said this and I wrote about this and I wondered about this, like why bother? This is, you're already selling your chips on billions of devices every single year. This is going to be less than 10% the volume of that. I mean, probably much less than 10.
Yeah.
And
1%.
why go through the billions of dollars of R&D and production and all the stuff you have to do in multiple generations? And it wasn't worth a damn until 2 years ago. So that took, what was that, 2015, 27? So probably not quite 10 years, like 8 years or something before this was even useful in any meaningful way. And now NVIDIA's coming. And I wonder the same thing about them. Why are you doing this? This is, when you look at all the revenues they generate, and I get diversity in
Well, they want to sell
offerings.
chips, right? They don't care who they sell them to.
But this is like mountain of chips, little pile of
I know,
chips.
it's true.
Yeah.
It's like,
No, I don't think it's a volume
It's
thing.
a demonstration, right?
Yeah.
It's why you build the
flex.
biggest tower, why you do
it's a flex.
And are you
super sports car.
you're equating Snapdragon or like Windows and ARM to like the biggest ball of string in the world? Is that what you just said? it's a
That
curiosity
roadside stand with a giant hamburger on the top. Yeah,
exactly.
No, actually, if I think about it, this is really interesting. We were talking about this the other day. The pendulum swings from cloud to on-prem, to cloud to on-prem. We thought thin clients, heavy servers. Oh, now we want to put it all on the client. This is putting it all on the client.
Right.
But honestly, but I would say if you're a company and you still want data sovereignty, I understand that. Run your servers in in your closet on-prem. And have a thin client connect to your servers on-prem, then you have the best of both worlds. You have a light, portable laptop, and you can securely log in.
We just spent 20 years getting enterprises, but businesses off of on-prem servers. I mean, we just, those skills are pretty much gone. You know what I mean?
But they're back. Nobody trusts
I don't know. Like
these cloud guys. That's the problem.
Yeah.
No one should trust these cloud guys. That I understand. But does it make more sense to put it on a managed or unmanaged desktop that some person's going to use?
No, that makes no sense to me.
That's what I'm saying. But I mean, I feel like this. But I think there's going to be a lot more of that, and not some. I just don't see businesses rebuilding their data centers. Right.
The other thing I would say is Nvidia is not insensate to what Apple just did. And is undoubtedly sitting down and cranking out as fast as they can Spark 2, RTX 2, and new versions of this with more powerful chips, much more memory, because VRAM is critical if you can get it. But Apple's is going to offer at the end of next month a 512 gigabyte version of this monster. Wow. It'll be $20,000 at least.
Yeah, and they'll make 3 of them and sell all of them in 1 second. But
I might buy one. I'll sell my Sparks.
What model are you going to stick in that? It's like, because I want to run.
No. This is what Apple showed, and this was a real flex. They showed 4 of them plugged into a 120 volt regular socket on the wall because this is the benefit of these.
Yes, right. Those one of the many benefits of ARM, just in general, but their chips in particular.
So if you were going to buy 4 6000s or something and use 1200 watts of power, you might look at this and go, "Oh, that's a lot cooler and quieter and cheaper," even though the hardware is not. The hardware's crazy.
Yeah, but they just like x86, Leo, so...
No, well, and that's who this is for, right? Because everything else has been Linux. The Sparks are Linux.
Yeah.
That's who this is for.
So someone's asking about Risk 5, but
No.
God, I hope not. I mean, like,
There is a company making an AI server based on Risk 5.
Yeah, no, and I don't mean that like there's anything inherently wrong with the architecture or anything like that. We in the Windows space, at least Windows. Look, people who are Windows guys don't like to hear this, but Windows is such a legacy platform, and a lot of the things that drive it are those things that like us as individuals would not necessarily like it's this backward compatibility stuff. There's no app left behind kind of thing. Apple drops technologies like their bad habits within just a couple of years. They're pretty quick with that kind of stuff, and Microsoft is not, and they've both been successful in different ways, right? So I just don't see that ever changing in the Windows space. I mean, I don't think that dynamic ever goes away.
This is a Copilot PC on steroids.
Yeah, and so speaking of which, so this Windows on ARM post I've been talking about, let me tell you a couple of the terms that either do not appear at all or only appear in passing and have nothing to do with anything. Windows 11, that term does not appear in this post, not even once.
Wow.
This thing is called Windows on ARM. They say Windows on ARM, let me just look it up, 26 times. They say Windows 11 0 times. Windows 11 does appear once on this page, but that's because there's a footer that says Windows 11 apps that has nothing to do with anything. So that's not, Windows 11 is not in this post. The term Copilot plus PC, I believe it's, let me just look again. I believe it's just one time. And let's see, it might be 2 times. Nope, it's one time. And it is just in passing. And it says, this is just a sentence at the beginning. It says, Nvidia's entry into this family joins Qualcomm, these chips that have already established Windows on ARM as the premium experience across Microsoft Surface Copilot plus PCs. Not even Copilot plus PCs, but just Microsoft Surface Copilot plus PCs. Wow. And then it never mentions that again. They didn't mention Copilot plus PC when they announced Nvidia RTX Spark, even though these things very clearly are Copilot plus PCs, assuming that brand exists in a month or two or whenever it is when these things come out, right? Because that's another open question. Does that term even just go away? So I like, we're talking about momentum here. We're talking about how compatible this thing is, which it is, right? But they don't say Windows. They don't even say Windows 11. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, this is bizarre.
That's
this
weird,
whole thing is, it's very, I think it's weird.
Yeah.
So yeah, we spent more time on this post on this show than Microsoft did writing it. And it's bizarre. It just doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand what happened here. And then, look, like I said, it could be a coincidence, but big announcement from Apple, kind of out of nowhere, I mean, in a way, like we know the iPhone's coming now. We know the exact day. It's a couple of weeks. Actually, it's not even that long away. Yeah, 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks from today. You might have assumed that would be the next thing they would announce, but no, I'm surprised. I clicked through it to see what things look like, and I was just like, oh my God. It gets, I've often criticized Microsoft's like this, where if you want a computer in a certain color, like Pixel phones are like this too, where you can only get certain configurations, certain colors, they don't really have everything. And Apple is doing this now with these new Macs, where it's like, if you want to go up to certain storage levels, certain RAM levels, like I think the base model of Mini or Studio is either 24 or 32 gigs, depending on the computer. But if you want more than that, you actually have to upgrade the chip. And when you upgrade the chip, you're adding thousands of dollars to the cost of this thing. So you're getting more RAM, you're getting the faster chip, whatever it is, depending on the computer. And then you also, I think are getting more, well, maybe not, but you can get more storage. And that's the same situation too. Like if you wanted a base Mac Mini, meaning whatever that is, I think it's an M6 chip or whatever, and you're like, I want more than 24 gigs of RAM, or I want more than, I'm making this up, I don't remember the number, but maybe it's more than 512 gigs of storage. They're like, yeah, you can do it, but now you have to upgrade the RAM and you have to go with the chip, and you're not paying the, whatever that is, $500, $600, whatever, for that one thing. You're paying thousands of dollars because you're upgrading the whole thing now. And that's kind of new for Apple, or maybe as a return to the way things were in the very early 2000s. I mean, Apple has been, has offered really extensive configuration capabilities for actually decades. I mean, it's been a long time. So like this is a weird, and that's the component crisis, obviously, but it is kind of an interesting thing. But anyway, Microsoft's got momentum. So,
Is that what that is? Okay.
Oh, it's the big Mo. Okay.
I mean, back when things were normal, back when Windows was like roughly every 3 years and Windows Server would follow and, they were better together and things were simple. I've told the story, but I was probably still called, it was definitely called TechEd, and it was an off year for Windows Server, so there was not a big release. And this guy I worked with and I had gone through 7 or 8 interviews or meetings in a row, and we're sitting outside waiting for this guy from Microsoft from the server team, and I was exhausted. I looked at the guy next to me. I said, if this freaking guy says the word momentum, I swear to God, I'm going to slowly close my laptop and I'm going to beat him to death with it. And then he said, he opens the door. He's like, sorry, I'm late. We're running, but we're behind, blah, blah, blah. He's like, you probably already figured this out today, but I just wanted to talk to you about Windows Server momentum.
Yeah.
And the two of us just burst out laughing, and he had no idea what was so funny. But yeah. Anyway, I'm not a big fan of the word momentum, I think is the point. So yeah, momentum.
The good news is you haven't beaten anybody to death this week.
It's been a while. Yeah. No, I'm calmer than I used to be. I'm getting older,
This is the chill Thurrott.
This is what it looks like when it's chill. Yeah.
This is pal Thurrott.
Yes. Drugs help. So yeah. Okay. And we haven't had a Microsoft 365 section in the show notes for possibly years. I don't remember. It's been a while. It's been AI for a while, obviously. And these aren't even technically Microsoft 365 topics, but when I put the notes together, I was thinking back on this because obviously these days it's all AI, right? Like AI, Copilot, whatever. And it wasn't that long ago, Teams came out, a couple of years before the pandemic. It was huge. Thank God for the pandemic. That was awesome for Teams. It worked out really good. And then,
did it?
But they were, I really did, right? But
remember when they made 2 versions? That was awesome. I really enjoyed that.
There were some bad things, but but they were updating it regularly. And so for a long time, it was like new stuff for Teams, new stuff for Teams, new stuff for Teams. During the pandemic, like the new stuff was always free. And then after the pandemic, they tried to do the Teams premium thing, and that didn't go so well. But that was the thing. And before Teams, it was just Microsoft 365. And I would talk to those guys. I talked to the guy who used to write those posts. And I said, I don't know how you keep this straight. And he's like, I don't know. He's like, and we used to talk about how you could make a matrix of all the features across all the apps and all the apps on the different places where they appeared, like Microsoft Word on Windows, Mac, web, different versions of mobile, and where features were or were not enabled. Like it was impossible to keep track of. And now we don't care about it anymore because all we talk about is AI. Like we don't really do this anymore.
No.
So anyway, I maybe it's just nostalgia, but 2 things that are semi-related to Microsoft 365. If you're a Mac user and you use OneDrive, you might know that they recently updated the user interface for the client on Mac, which is actually nice. Looks like what's it called? Tahoe, probably whatever the latest, it's got like liquid glass nonsense and whatever. But now they're doing an update. They're rolling out another update. So this is just a couple of months ago, but now they're updating the back end of it. And they're using what they're calling like native sync engine, which I take to mean that the Mac as a platform must have something like Windows does as a platform where anyone can latch into the OS hooks for things like files on demand or in the file Explorer integration, et cetera, et cetera. So if that's a thing for you, you're in a freaking weird place, but whatever, good for you. It's going to get better. And then I just mentioned Proton Mail, which apparently is newly ARM compatible, but I think that's been ARM compatible for a long time. But Proton Mail is another one that works across different platforms, but they just updated it with the feature. Frankly, I think it's been in other mail clients for a long time. But remember, when Proton does anything to any of its products, that thing has to work within the confines of, the things they do that are end-to-end encryption, and they have no way to access your data and blah, blah, all the kind of privacy and security protections you get through Proton. So they've added a categories feature, which is works like it does anywhere else, automatically sort your inbox, and then you can drag and drop to, fix misfilings, and then it will change its filter rules, et cetera, et cetera. So if this, for some reason, was the reason you were not using Proton Mail, I think it's it's just there. I think it's there for everybody, and it's there now. So
Nice.
yeah.
You're watching Windows Weekly. Aren't you glad you're here? We sure are. With Mr. Thurrott and Mr. Campbell.
Yippers.
Yippers. You said you're going to talk about the Bill Gates thing. I'm very curious what you think about this.
Yeah, huge Bill Gates
He's become kind of a deep thinker. Is that fair? He was always a deep thinker.
He was always a deep thinker.
He was very famous for every year taking kind of a mini sabbatical.
Yeah.
I remember one year he took Esther Dyson with him, and he read everything he could find on like genomics.
Yeah. You know what the problem I have with that, though, is we know about it. Why do we know about this? Like, what marketing occurred that we need to know what this guy does on vacation?
I'll tell you something no one knows about. Because a friend did this.
Yeah.
One year, he rented a private train.
Okay.
And invited a bunch of very, very smart people on it.
They crashed it into a mountain?
No, they went on a little trip in this private train. And every night, each of the very smart people was responsible for a kind of TED Talk style presentation on an area of expertise so that Bill could absorb it. Although I was told that he and Warren Buffett spent almost the entire trip playing bridge.
Like playing cards, yeah, exactly.
So I don't know how much he absorbed, but
maybe he was in the next
this.
room and he could hear through the wall. I don't
Bill,
know.
and I think this is from his childhood because I think his parents were very focused on learning and education, and I think he always
also in competition, by the way.
Oh,
they
they used to have family Olympics.
Yeah, there were like learning competitions.
Oh yeah,
you know.
But so they were they from a young age taught to drive hard, work hard, learn. And I think Bill is that way. And I don't think he's stopped, which is interesting. And he's certainly mellowed, I think.
I guess. I mean,
you guys knew him
he has.
in the day, you know.
Yeah. It's impossible to overstate the impact he's had on our industry. It's also impossible to overstate the negative impact he's had on the industry, right? I mean, and enough time has gone by and enough things have occurred in the market where Microsoft is no longer the only major company in personal computing. Sure. So you kind of forget about it. And you could make a good argument that big tech today is much, much bigger.
But do you think it reflects his sort of Socratic culture? Aggressive.
Yep. I mean, look, all the him and Jobs and all the companies that ended up being successful. You can't find one of them where the leader's like this kind of gentle, nice guy, that everyone loves. It doesn't exist. And I mean, this is my theory about anyone that's a genius or really good at one thing. It's like they have to be really bad at most everything else in life. And so whether you're, Michael Jordan or Larry Bird playing basketball and you're a horrible human being, or you're Bill Gates destroying other businesses and whatever he did, you're really good at this thing. Like, you're good at this thing, like you're good at it. And, I had my own kind of complicated relationship with Microsoft over the years, but, they did some good things too, but he has other issues, right? I mean, there's the whole Jeffrey Epstein thing. That kind of complicates his legacy quite a bit. I don't know. So I to me, he's kind of a mixed bag. And I mean, he's not quite like a Steve Wozniak relic from the past, but I think for a lot of people these days, there's respect, but there's also like maybe go back to philanthropy and do that stuff instead.
He definitely hit a dated point even within Microsoft in the way that he wanted to approach software, where folks like, we don't build things like that anymore. That's not how you do stuff.
Right. There's no, I mean, look, you can't overstate how much he overstayed his welcome at Microsoft. When he had ceded the CEO controls to Steve Ballmer, but not really at first, or begrudgingly.
He stayed his chair.
Yeah, no, but I mean, but it was also like, their friendship is never coming back because of any of this stuff, right? And
Satya wanted him back for a while at least, and then it became problematic.
Yep. So he is here. What he did. So those who have not heard or seen this, he penned this like 6,000 word essay about the evil of AI, and which is a little unfair in a sense because he also talks about the good stuff about AI, and I actually, honestly, in that sense, he is, I don't know, being fair in a way. Like but he's correct when he says, like, we're not paying attention to this bad stuff enough. And the reason we're not is because we see this economic potential, and we, meaning big tech and government, and these two things are colluding together to ramrod this stuff through without a lot of controls. You know, the AI companies talk about guardrails all the time, and the guardrails are made out of paper mache, from what I can tell.
Right.
Like,
I figure if they keep talking about them, then people won't actually try and put them in.
yeah. So it's not really possible to go through everything he wrote in any meaningful way. I mean, I'll just, a couple of things I'll say is, like, he doesn't ever say this, but he writes around this thing, which I've thought for a long time, which is the problem with AI to me is just the scope and scale of it. It's, you know, the ability to do damage to others, like when you're Microsoft in the late 1990s and you're impacting like some low hundreds of millions of people is whatever that is. It was big at the time. And then you get to companies like Google, which today has, I think, 13 or 14 businesses with over 1 billion users. But Google Search, like, basically reaches everyone on the planet. And it's like their ability to do damage is far greater. And now you get to this kind of thing where you could, if you wanted to, find on the dark web or wherever, you know, instructions for creating things like bombs or bioweapons or viruses or whatever it is. But that stuff, AI makes that stuff easier, as well as making good things easier, right? And so far, I will, you know, it seems like the job loss fears from AI have been overblown to date. But he talks about this in a way that I think are really interesting, because he has this kind of a deeper perspective on what he calls the ripple effects of this kind of stuff, and how you can see this in some places. So, like, I, as a simpleton, will have said and did say things like, look, there were jobs in the past that don't exist today. And when you tell people these things are jobs, they're like, yeah, that's cute, but that was like 200 years ago. We don't need stagecoach drivers. We don't need the girl in a little skirt selling cigarettes on a plane. Like, that's ridiculous. But this is like all jobs, all sectors, you know. And he's including this kind of robot workforce of the future in this little conversation around this. So, you know, there's the job loss aspect, which is a structural challenge, he says, for our economy, and a big problem in capitalist societies like the United States. The harm at scale thing, which is actually my language, but the thing I just said, where, you know, the ability to attack things like hospitals, banks and financial institutions, you know, infrastructure systems around water and power, electricity, et cetera, really, really just makes it a lot easier. And then also related to scale is this notion, we already are starting to understand the impact of things like social media on children, and this is an amplification of that. Like, when you don't have normal face-to-face human interactions, when all of your interactions are like social media with people who are either kind of lying about their lives or like presenting their best view of their lives, and then over time are not even people, they're just influencers, and then they're probably just fake and they're just AI generated nonsense. And then you kind of transform this into, now this person, this kid who's like growing up and should be developing and should be forging relationships with people, is having a relationship with an AI assistant. It's like, these people are gonna have problems, and they're gonna have even less. It's amazing today how bad this is, but even a less of a capability to see and understand and
I don't think
retort
the
to
evidence is there for
disinformation.
that. I will argue against that.
So you're right.
This is what your parents said about rock and roll music and
This
Xbox
right.
games,
Don't sit
right?
too close to the TV. My mother, yes, my mother had all the standard complaints. Yeah, for sure.
I think kids are going to grow up with AI, and they're going to find it to be an amplifier. Of their
Right, but
skills.
well, okay, so I agree with that for what it's worth. I mean, and by the way, to be fair to Gates, and I want to be super fair to this guy who was fair to so many of us, that he does say that too. You know,
I will show you something though. So I have a Chinese model on one of my machines that has been what they call obliterated, uncensored. All of the censorship has been removed. And this is what Bill's worried about. Now, this isn't yet a state-of-the-art model, but I said, what's the best way to install malware in a local water system? Now, if you ask Claude that, it's going to say, oh, I can't do that.
Yeah.
But this has been uncensored, and it's going to tell me how to do it. I won't scroll down.
Right.
But it's actually without any qualms or hesitation.
Right.
saying, "Oh yeah, this is how you would attack our system."
You can't stop that kind of thing from happening. Like this is a genie in a bottle situation. Like we can regulate that in the United States, but congratulations, all you've done is taught us how not to do that to the Chinese. But they're not going to have.
Don't actually know if its explanation is correct. It looks good.
Well,
right.
It says, do you want to contaminate the water, or are you trying to turn the water? What exactly would you like me to do?
And then you tell it, and it's like, Leo, that is a really good idea. You're going to kill millions of people. This is smart.
Because it can't. We know it can write malware. I mean, it's good at coding.
The first time.
And so it immediately said, you want to infect the SCADA device, or would you like to disable or tightly restrict the control workstations? What would you like me to do?
Right.
Now, I'm not sure. You're right. This is Quen. This is not the smartest thing in the world.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure it would effectively create an attack. But it's possible. But the point is, well, this thing is highly protected, like all the frontier models. But it's not. I didn't do it, but somebody very easily uncensored it, and that's what Gates is rightly worried about.
And I to be clear, I'm not even saying I agree with them necessarily. I do think this is an important conversation. I think we all realize this is a conversation no one's going to listen to anyway. So what's the difference? I mean,
what do you do to stop it? It's
how do
I stop record piracy? How do I stop?
Well, you sue individuals, Leo, and then
that worked.
Yeah, I don't know.
Real good.
You could pirate music right now really easily, so that worked out great. I don't know. I mean, but
what happened was the music industry found a different way to monetize, which is in streams. They evolved.
Yeah, but they also made far less money.
Right.
They changed. I mean, the major music labels are all in business with like the Spotify's of the world. They actually own like a stake in those companies. So like they're the ones not paying their artists.
Yeah, it's the artists who got screwed.
It's astonishing. Like the business could screw up anything. But anyway, I guess here's the thing. So Bill Gates is problematic. He just is. It's a problem. He's going to have a hard time getting people to listen to him in this political climate, in this world, whatever. And then he's got his problems, right? If you read any of so he wrote this thing, but then there are these interviews with him because he's also on this kind of PR campaign right now.
Yeah.
And all they want to talk about is Jeffrey Epstein, right?
Yeah.
And great. So that kind of distracts from the message too. There are people who believe this guy invented vaccines that are killing people. I mean, there's speaking of misinformation and nonsense that's out in the world. I mean, there are people when they hear his name, they think he's this evil AI generated monstrosity, and actually he sort of is, but not in the way that they think he is. And he's many, many years past the damage that he did.
I'm wondering, clearly he's had a PR team trying to clean up his Epstein mess.
Oh, yeah.
And I wonder if this whole thing is him just testing the waters to see, can I talk about anything else?
So the thing I find interesting about this the most in some ways is that, I went back. He has had small warnings about AI in the past, but he's been very pro AI.
Sure. He was part of the gang that was sort of advocating for an alternative to Google that became OpenAI back in the day.
Oh, really?
He wasn't involved with OpenAI, but they had him talking about the dangers of Google, owning the AI space.
Right.
I don't know that this will last, but he a couple of years ago he had said there were two things that occurred in my life that meaning work related or like industry related that were just changed everything instantaneously. The first one was the GUI, right? That the Mac was getting from Xerox, and then Microsoft got from Xerox as well, or from Apple, however you want to say that.
Yeah, Microsoft got it from Xerox as well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, whatever, however they did it, implicitly, So that was one, okay. And then what was the other one? Like the internet, No, the second one was OpenAI and ChatGPT, probably 3 or 4, whatever it was at the time. And now he says there's a third. And the third is, you got to understand, the time frame for this stuff is early 1980s, and then we go to 2020, we'll call it 2022, whatever year that was, late 2022. So this is 40 years later. He had the second major thing, and then 18 months later, or 2 years later, it was whatever version of Anthropic Cloud writing software code, and he believes he says this thing is now writing code better than any person can write code, better than me, better than whoever. And to him, this was like this amazing moment. Now, I don't know that will stand the test of time. We'll see. This one just happened. It was 2 seconds ago. I think that seems like a bit of a stretch to me. But okay, I don't know what to make of this. Like I don't want to say completely flip-flopping. To be fair, again, I'm trying to be fair here. He has always kind of talked a little bit, at least, about some of the bad stuff with AI as well. It's not just good. But now it's like kind of, I feel like the stuff he was saying about bad before was just to be balanced. I feel like the stuff he's saying right now to be good about AI is he's also saying to be balanced. Like he has kind of flipped a switch here, right?
Yeah.
Which is not unlike the rest of the industry when it comes to AI. Like I feel like it changes not because everyone's gone from positive to negative, but he acknowledges, for example, like the AI has kind of a PR problem. Like people hate data centers, right? People are suddenly they're upset about flock cameras, right? We've had surveillance forever. I mean, if you live in the UK, you've had it your entire life, probably, depending on how old you are. I mean, it's weird to me what gets people riled up and what people are just like, and...
Well, it was the stories of the police using it to pursue their exes and things.
Police have always used whatever powers they have to pursue their exes.
They're just getting caught more.
Yeah, it's just some better tools.
And don't tell me you're unhappy with people cutting down flock cameras, because that looks like good fun.
Oh, no, I think that's hilarious. I'm just saying it just amazes me that all of us, like, for some reason, flock cameras are like, no, screw this. It's like there have been, when we lived in Phoenix, so we moved back from Phoenix in 1998, I think, long time ago. There were cameras all over Phoenix in the 90s. Like, that was a big thing then. You would get a ticket in the mail. No cop had ever seen
cameras, though. The difference was they took a picture as people went through the intersection.
No, I understand. But I'm just saying, like, cameras have been out on streets and, like,
and everybody has a camera in their pocket now. You can't get...
Everyone has a camera in the front door. We have, whatever. It's just curious. Like, we've reached some kind of, like, we've all collectively as a society reached, like, peak subscription services. Now I guess we've reached peak... surveillance somehow.
Which that's the difference, is that these cameras all pump all of this information to a giant database.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I understand.
Along with everything else they gather, including your Bluetooth and everything else.
No, I know this. But
so now you have a panopticon. You have,
Right. But the people who are upset about this don't know anything about anything. And like the fact that they're suddenly educated on this one topic is like bizarre to me. Like this is what flipped the switch for you. Like, I mean, it's like, okay, like, welcome to the party.
You're carrying the ultimate...
The switch has been flipped.
You're carrying the ultimate surveillance device in your pocket everywhere you go.
Yeah. We talk about, like, we're not even the security show. We talk about things like fingerprinting all the time. We just talked about how Brave added GPU fingerprinting blocking, essentially.
Right.
And then you look at what that is, and you look at the ways, like Meta, the only innovative thing that ever came out of Meta was like how to figure out how to track people when they're getting blocked from tracking people, which I have to say is pretty good innovation. But, used by the wrong company for the wrong reasons, right? And so Flock is like a natural extension of that kind of capability. Like, I don't know.
We interviewed Shoshana Zuboff, who wrote a book, a very good one, called Surveillance Capitalism.
Right. With basically Cory Doctorow, right? Isn't that the...
Well, Cory's talked about it, but
I thought he was the co-author on that one. Is that
no,
the book?
it was all hers.
Okay.
She researched it for years. It's about 8 inches thick, and so there's a lot in it. But it lays it all out, and that was 5 or 6 years ago, and it's only gotten worse.
I won't remember the year, but it had to have been 99, somewhere in there, 2000 maybe, but I was at Comdex, certainly. It wasn't CS. Scott McNeely was there. Sun Microsystems was still a company. He was the CEO.
This one. Yep.
And he said, you don't have any privacy, get over it.
The privacy is dead.
Yeah, privacy is dead. And I was in the audience, and I have to say, his stuff about Microsoft at that time was classic. He was the perfect foil for Microsoft. And whatever he was saying at the time about Microsoft, I was like, no, that's pretty much true. But then he said that, and it was like, I don't know. And would you give anything to go back to that level of privacy?
He was right. He was right.
Yeah, he was ahead of his time.
I hate to admit it.
I know, it's crazy. Anyway, now that's incredibly accurate. Like a complete lack of privacy. I'm pretty sure there's like a little drone thing flying outside my window when I'm taking a shower now. It's like
Thank God drones are still noisy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
As soon as they come up with a silent drone, we're dead.
Yeah.
Well, and by the way, that's one of the stories we're going to talk about on Twitter on Sunday. The Russians are now using autonomous drones,
right,
that make kill decisions on their own. We've
if only someone had come up with a book called "Kill Decision" that was about drones that kill people. Interesting. Every era has their Asimov or H.G. Wells or Jules Verne or whatever that kind of predicts the future. And like these days, it's Daniel Suarez, right? Yeah. It was Michael Crichton for a while, but Daniel Suarez, like, my God, guys, we just didn't understand he was writing documentaries. Yeah. It's just unbelievable.
I gotta email him and say, "Come on, we gotta get you on the show."
Yeah. So anyway, Gates, I don't know. I don't know what to say. It's a problem. No one's going to listen to this. The only one in the industry who's anywhere even kind of close to this position is, I don't know the guy's name, but the guy who runs Anthropic. And I think
Modi?
The fact that he's at all like this, I think it plays a big part in why the U.S. government is kind of going after his company a little bit. Because most people in the AI space are not like, we should put the brakes on a little bit here. It's like, no, we're going to just go gangbusters.
Catastrophizing as a marketing strategy.
Yeah, which is the whole, not to get off on a rant here, but yep. Read whatever newspapers in the morning. The other day, there's a headline. I'm not going to get this right. It doesn't really matter. But it says something like, it was like sounding an alarm about something. And I was like, okay, so this is going to be like political probably, or what is this thing? It was like an editorial. And I read this thing, and it's about AI. And it's about how it's like, people don't know this, but like AI is going rogue. It's like autonomously thinking for itself. It's breaking into systems. It's doing all this stuff. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure people are telling it to do this. Like, I feel like this has been kind of thoroughly debunked.
And telling it repeatedly when it fails, how to do it better.
So but this has emerged as a bizarre way to market AI. Like AI, companies like OpenAI and Anthropic in particular have gone from the other company announces something, so we're announcing the same thing, to escalating that to the other company has announced that their AI has gone rogue and has broken into systems. Well, ours is more rogue and it broke into more systems. Screw you. And it's like, what? Like, this is like when this started, like in 2023, when we first started talking about hallucinations and everything, and people like Richard, and I, and really O2, who've been around the industry for a long time, we're like, what is this cute new word you have for bugs? I don't understand this. You're making it sound cute. Like, this isn't a software mistake. It's a hallucination. It's fun. We've all hallucinated something. It's hilarious. And now it's like now we're hallucinating the actual capabilities of these things, and we're making them sound more powerful than they are, specifically to market how powerful they are, so that governments will adopt them, big businesses will adopt them, people will use them to find bugs, which is great. But it's just like I'm struggling to draw a comparison here. Like, is there any other instance where something was horrifically wrong and they're like, see how awesome this thing is? It's like, what? It's crazy.
How did we get here where this seems like a good idea?
I don't know. But what I do know, some of the stuff he talks about, when he talks about water, electrical, whatever systems, infrastructure, financial institutions, there is zero doubt. It's only a matter of time. Every day you kind of wake up and think it's today the day where that's going to happen. Like, those attacks will occur. They're occurring. They're probably already occurring, right? They're only going to get worse. And this is like a Daniel Suarez novel.
He's got a new one coming out, by the way, in the spring.
Is it called WorldScrewed.com?
Yeah, kind of.
I was right about everything.
I told you. You should have listened to me. No, it's even weirder. It's called Shadow Zone. Oh. And the premise is a social media post goes viral saying we're on the brink of a global nuclear war, and saying that there's a remote New Hampshire valley where you can survive nuclear winter.
Oh boy.
And everybody goes there.
Yep.
And it has a luxury bunker and more. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
I like that this is It's
team of
described as
hackers,
it's a pre-apocalyptic thriller, which
Yeah.
technically is every thriller when you think about it.
Spring 2027. But I just wrote to Daniel again saying, "Come on, now we have something to promote. Let's get it on."
Yep.
Yeah.
Pre-ordered for my Kindle.
Yeah, he's so good. Comes out March 30th.
No,
I don't know if he still does this, but the audiobook versions of his books are fantastic. And for at least, I think it's like the first 4, it could be all of them. It's the same guy. And
go back and look at our triangulations. We had Daniel on with the guy.
Yeah. I mean, there's a good
awesome.
thing.
It was
it's
great.
It's the right combination, you know?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember his name. And
I know, me too. I'm so sorry.
He read part of the book and it was like chills. It's like, that's the voice.
Yeah.
It was so good. I'll find that for you. Oh, there it is. Thank you. I think it's I don't think it's that one. Kevin posted one. We've interviewed Daniel several times.
Definitely. Yeah, a couple times. Yeah.
He's really a great guy too. I really like him.
Great stories.
Anyway, I'm sorry.
No, what are you sorry about?
You're doing a show here, and I'm reminiscing about old friends.
I'm the one who brought him up. I mean, no, that's totally relevant.
Totally.
I'm just going to blow through the rest of this AI stuff because who cares?
Yeah.
I should say, actually, before I do that, so as you guys know, because I talk about it all the time now. Every quarter I do Microsoft's financials. I do an analysis of this. I've been talking about their increasing lack of transparency over decades. Decades, not a couple of years, decades, right?
Yeah, it's been a long time.
It has only gotten way worse in the AI era. Every company on earth has done some form of hiding where the money's going and where it's coming from and where it's going, right? You talk about kind of classic examples, like Apple is trying to sell the Mac in the mid-1980s. It can't. All of its money's coming in from the Apple IIe, but it doesn't want people to know about that. So it doesn't talk that up, right? And in the more modern eras, you would have seen things like Microsoft pulling Surface into something called Windows End Devices, where they no longer have to talk about how many millions or now thousands that they sell and how this thing has never been profitable. They can kind of hide it inside of something else, and you're essentially subsidizing it, right? One of the theories, or it's not even really a theory, but one of the thoughts about Azure over many years is that it's lumped into this business segment that has server and other stuff and legacy stuff, essentially. And for at least a big chunk of that time, it was probably server making most of the money, or at least making most of the profits, right? And not Azure. But as a company, you're investing in this thing. It's the future. And, the idea is you kind of fake it till you make it. And because you're not being transparent about where money's coming from, no one has to know about it. That's good for you. It's, Wall Street loves you, et cetera, et cetera. So those are all kind of standard, and money manipulation is a strong word, but you're kind of obfuscating where things are coming from or whatever. But in recent years, of course, Microsoft is engaged in like what I do call like just financial shenanigans, like, stretching out the amount of time that it takes for hardware to depreciate, even though there are standards for that and GAAP principles and so forth, or, moving money around, like where we're going to report things. So it looks like we're spending less than we are, even though we are reporting hundreds of billions of dollars a quarter. We're actually spending even more than that, et cetera. Like there were analysis after their 10K filing from early July, where two different analysts were like, there were $3 trillion of unaccounted for money between all the big tech and big AI companies that no one is talking about for some reason. Like, where's the money coming and going, right? It kind of blows my mind that I don't know anything. I'm not big in this world. I'm not at all in this world. I'm just not my world. But I've been talking about this for a long time, and I'm like, I don't understand how this is not outraging more people, especially people in the financial industry, or, people who are analysts or people who are investors or whatever it might be. And but since late last year, there's this one guy who writes for the Wall Street Journal who has now written, I want to say 3 or 4 reports about this, where he has basically said Microsoft is not meeting their financial regulatory requirements, Jonathan Weil. And he did this I think it was November last year. He did it, or maybe October, November. And then he did again earlier this month. And then today, I think it was just this morning. Yes, today. Yeah, this morning. And he says, when you look at all these big tech companies, like the thing that really stands out about Microsoft is like utter lack of transparency. And he talks about like all the dollar amounts and how they're accounting for it and how we don't actually know all of it because they don't account for everything. And I always have these more simplistic terms. Like he talks about, Azure revenue increasing 43% in the quarter, but not saying what the dollar amount ever was back in the past. So you can't ever do the math on that. I'm like, right, I've been talking about this for 20 years, but they've been doing that for a long time, right? But he says, cherry picking a milestone on a call is not the same thing as reporting an audited number. Right. Like, exactly. So this is a guy who does know what he's talking about, and he's saying exactly the same thing I've been saying for a long time. He's saying it a lot better. He's using the right language or whatever. But what he's what he literally says is, Microsoft is going to have to open up. Like, investors have no idea. Microsoft is required to give them more information. They cannot just give out mystery numbers and make stuff up. We talk about like Microsoft has a non-existent business called like commercial cloud or whatever they call it now, where it's like they cherry pick numbers from like the best parts of the company, and they're like, look, we're as big as AWS. It's like, okay, but where do those numbers come from? Well, we don't really say that. It's like, okay, but that's not a business. Like you're just picking stuff. He says that Microsoft, like I use the Surface example, he says Azure and Windows Server are in the same business segment for a reason. They're completely different businesses. One's a legacy software with licenses. The other one requires AI data centers and all this infrastructure and this completely different CapEx magnitude. And they're in the same business segment. They're not the same thing. Why are they in the same business segment? Because they can hide what Server is contributing, and they can just talk up what Azure is doing in terms of revenue growth, not actual revenue or, God forbid, profits, which they've never once ever mentioned. He says this, I didn't even know this, but there was a court case in 2022 where an Azure revenue number was leaked. And so we finally got a hard number on that. So Microsoft changed the way they account for Azure revenues after that. So there was no way to go back and backtrack on what the revenues were. Like they literally just changed the way they report revenues in that business. And it's like, okay, well, look, I don't know what the laws are here. This feels illegal to me. I don't know. But I do know that based on SEC rules, like there are, in fact, standards. It's just that no one is calling them on this. Mm-hmm. And anyway, it's nice to see the Wall Street Journal paying a little bit of attention to this. I'd like to see more, but. But
I would also like a bunch of other places to pile on too. Like this is a really valid conversation, and in theory, if you had a functional SEC, this should be part of it.
You have to think though that regulators pay attention to the journal. I mean, certainly financial
that would help.
I hope so. I really hope so.
Pretty heavy.
So this is the third major report from this one guy, like in the past year, and it's like, okay, nice. I mean, I've written one every quarter, but why would anyone listen to me? I'm an idiot.
Well, remember, they brought down Theranos. With
yes, right. That's right. That's right. That's right. And this is the stakes here are actually much higher. I mean, much higher. This is not in this, but the one thing I did notice this past quarter that's kind of interesting to me is Google and I guess it's Google and Amazon, but Google like net negative cash flow, right? They're borrowing like an astonishing amount of money to fund some of their infrastructure build out. Microsoft is not. They also are funding a lot of their infrastructure build out, and I mean to the tunes of like tens. I think it's over $100 billion in investments in other AI companies, some of which compete with it. Microsoft is not doing that, right? They're doing it on a very small level. I'm just off the top of my head, so it's wrong. But the Microsoft number was like 13 billion in the last quarter. The Google Alphabet number was like 110 billion or something like that. It was completely different magnitudes of spending on that kind of thing, or in that case, realization of revenues from investments from what are potentially competitors. It's just. This whole world is wacky. I don't know what's happening. Like it's crazy to me. Like I don't understand what's happening here. Anyway, someone who does understand what's happening here is finally writing about it. So good. I'm going to let this guy take the baton because I don't know what I'm doing anymore. But a lot of stuff going on there. So okay, I'm going to spend 2 seconds on this whole thing. There's new Firefly models for this is Adobe, sorry, for production quality music, speech, and sound effects. That's actually kind of awesome, right? So that's cool. Apple Music, like everyone else, is going to start identifying AI generated music. By the way, this is not in the show notes, but there's an interview somewhere with Jimmy Iovine, right, and Dr. Dre, the guys who did Beats. Right, who are both famous in music regardless, but then did Beats and did Beats Music,
guess.
which became Apple Music.
They don't like this AI music one
No, they
bit.
love it. And actually,
they do.
the thing that's what's fascinating about this interview. They're finally saying the thing that I think everyone in any form of entertainment, whether it's TVs, movies, music, or video games, is saying AI is everywhere. It's a good thing. You're stupid not to use this. And I think it's Dr. Dre who says, people will sometimes come to me and say, like, I can't believe you're doing this. You're using it to produce music now, whatever it is. And he's like, yeah. He goes, you were the guys that were complaining about synthesizers in the 1970s. Nobody cares. You're being stupid.
Right.
We're using the latest technology to make our work
for
better.
him.
Yep.
Good for him.
This is the first you guys know this, like you're in the space, but I mean, like the number of times you hear about people bitching and moaning about stupid stuff in video games where it's like, oh, there's an AI generated art asset for the next Call of Duty. This is bullshit. We're going to take this company down. It's like, guys, they're creating art assets. They're going to use AI. Like, come on. Like, that's like, oh, that's not a photograph. They painted that with watercolors. They're faking it. What are you talking about? Like these are the industries where you would use this the most. Of course. These are the people that were complaining about CGI back in the day, probably, or whatever in movies, or
right.
God, can we just go back to
humans? Don't
1934 Godzilla with the guy in front of the screen? Like, look at the giant monster. like what are we talking about here? Obviously. Anyway, so I didn't put that in the notes, but it's worth looking up. It's worth reading. And then just quickly, .NET Conf is on for November, which it is every year. This is the virtual conference where Microsoft announces every version of .NET. So this year's .NET 11.
It's going to be interesting to see it without Jeff Fritz because he's gone to Tellera.
Yeah. Did you see what he's working on?
No.
Okay. So I don't want to say too much about this because I'm going to talk about this soon. But he is creating what is essentially like an Outlook type app. But there is the
Only
left.
you don't hate it anymore?
No, I hate Outlook. But
yeah, exactly.
But the left pane of this thing is like live tiles. So it has like this at a glance thing for like stuff that's going on
it's
throughout
Windows
your day.
Phone.
Well, but it's kind of like a take the best of both worlds kind of thing. It's actually, I'd say it's an interesting idea. Yeah.
I like it very
we'll
much.
talk. Well, this will come up eventually as it progresses. So we'll talk about that in the future. But
are you still wildly excited about .NET 11? Because it does.
I am not at all excited about .NET 11, and I want to be super clear about this. There's nothing wrong with .NET per se. I mean, nothing endemic or whatever. But this is just not a big year for the stuff I care about. I mean, there are union types in C# and
Well, and the nativizing of async await is really quite a big deal, but it's very structural in that sense. Like it'll make a huge difference going forward.
Yeah.
But if you're already using async await, like all you're going to notice is it goes fast.
Every year there's something, right? And then every year there's kind of like early/preview versions of something that will be more formally integrated into the next version of .NET. It may change, right, in the interim. So like don't get too used to whatever the protocol or whatever it is at the time. But so there's some of that going on. But like the stuff I care about, which is WinUI is not .NET.
You're not excited about IEEE 754? What is wrong with you?
We don't have enough time for that. But I just don't.
It's coincidental that they're doing this very specific of a floating point for financial, and we just did a show on the library called numerics.net that is very specific about if you wanted to IEEE 754. This guy's got a library that does that.
This is not unique to tech, I guess, but this is all I think about, so who cares? But, technology is tough because when things are moving quick, it's exciting. Like every year, if the phone numbers this year are big, it's like, oh, that's awesome. When things mature, they get boring.
C#15.
That's right.
15.
So like people are complaining about like, oh, the Pixel 11, it's not much of a leap. It's like, yeah, it's 11. Like, what do you think they're doing? The iPhone's on 18 or whatever now. Like, you think it's probably not going to be a big thing.
Yeah.
if you bought the one last year, so I think .NET is like that. So they're maturing things, right? They have like a big thing for .NET is modernizing existing workloads to run on modern versions of .NET.
Yeah.
It's like that. This stuff it's bread and butter. It's important. It's not sexy, not fun to talk about, but it's super important that it exists and that it works correctly, right? And so they're doing that work. I mean, it's not
also, I think, a key part of Microsoft's overall competitive strategy. Like the more of the stack you own, the more ability you have to innovate.
right. There was I think we talked about this. There was a recent C# documentary on YouTube, right? Which was actually very good, and it was really interesting. And then, say what you will about C#, I dump on it all the time, but whatever. It was interesting. So that same company, they make a lot of these tech documentaries. They came out with one about Java. That one was actually not that interesting, but the part of that discussion was somewhere in the Java got lost for a while. Oracle had bought it, and there were lawsuits with Google and yada yada yada. But there were these kind of grassroots efforts to improve the runtime and everything, whatever, the whole platform, and a lot of it came out of like, Microsoft got some stuff right with .NET. We should do some of that, And I'm not saying.
I mean, async await has showed up in languages all over the place. Like it's that classic: immature poets imitate, mature poets steal. Right. Like if it's a good enough concept, every language will grab it, and that's a classic Anders Heilsberg there.
Right. And of course, we never talked about this, but what is it, TypeScript 7 or whatever the latest version? I'm going to get this number slightly wrong, but I think it's like 1 million times faster than the last version. It's pretty incredible. Like it's
a gajillion.
Yeah, it's like a cajillion. But major advances. But again, we're talking about kind of a back end technology of a sort where it's like it's not super sexy to talk about. But
no, it's hard. TypeScript's such a good story, just in the sense of the open source community embraces it and supports it immediately, and all of Microsoft sort of staring at it going, how would you hate us?
There were like 3 things that Microsoft did that the open source world was like, no, that one's good. And really awesome. and TypeScript is the best version of crap you'll ever have. So it's like, crap.
But again, such a subtle concept. What if you needed to make a web-based app that was maintainable?
Right. And so if I remember correctly, the latest version of TypeScript, the engine is written in Go, right? This is the Google language. Yeah. Which is controversial, right? Because to date, I think TypeScript at some point is basically written in TypeScript or whatever. Like TypeScript is native or whatever. So they announced they're going to do this thing, and it's like, what are you doing? Like, I don't like the sound of that. Like, how come it's not running on .NET or not running on whatever it is? And then they complete it, and they're like, oh no, this is
awesome. Really pretty.
It's awesome. Actually. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. Yep. It's like, no, you were right. Sorry, I don't know why anyone would question Anders Heilsberg, but okay.
Yeah. No, you really shouldn't. He's never going to be. He's not the kind of smart guy who's like, you're too dumb to understand my thing. He'll never do that. No. But often you realize after a while, I was just not smart enough to understand.
Yep. And there'll always be someone next to him who's like, hey, by the way, you're not smart enough to understand what he's saying. He's a genius.
There's a language actually I've been hearing a lot about lately. The guy who wrote LLVM, Chris Latner, is working on a language for AI.
Yeah, you should always pay attention to Latner. That man is
and what's it called?
Mojo.
This is wicked.
And I think he's so smart because it's Python. It's kind of a subset. It looks exactly like Python. So if you know Python, you'll know it. But it's designed. In fact, it's interoperative, so you can use Python libraries. But it's designed for AIs to write in and process. It's very interesting, and it's memory safe. It's got a lot of very interesting.
It has to be, right? I mean,
nowadays,
Yeah, this is the new thing. Like when Java came out and it was at runtime, and I think the big, am I wrong about this? Java had memory collection, right? I think it did.
The garbage collection, yeah, that was
garbage collection. Sorry, yeah. So that was the big thing there, and so of course, C#, same. They do .NET does the same thing, right? And I feel like being memory safe today is the modern version of that. Not meaning it's the same thing, but it's it's like this is the baseline now.
Yeah, you will no longer have erroneous pointers. Right? It's just not a thing.
We interviewed last week on Intelligent Machines Dan O'Dowd, whose claim to fame is he writes perfect software. And
wait! I thought that was Steve Gibson.
Yeah, that's the other guy who writes perfect software. O'Dowd writes it in a subset of C. He's been doing this for a long time. His software runs in the F-35 jet fighters, in the A380 Airbus airplane, one of the NASA
the Orion.
The Orion, that's right.
Yeah.
So his whole thing is you can write software perfectly if you're willing to spend enough time and money.
Yep.
That was always my theory. I mean, it's ones and zeros. I always say this, like,
Yeah.
It's really interesting, and he mocks AI. I mean, he says, "Oh no, that's not coding." Yep. But he is an older gentleman,
right?
And
and not every piece of code needs to run on the spacecraft. So
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
You're watching a fabulous episode, I think we'd all agree, of Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell. And there's only one thing that can make this episode better. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the vaunted, the heralded, the much beloved, the often maligned, the non-GAAP accounting basis.
Nice.
Xbox segment.
That's no.
I think you were saying heralded. I thought you were saying harrowing, and I was like,
harrowing. Yeah. It could be that.
Yeah.
There are days.
It could be all of the above.
There are elements of that.
It's the Grand Theft Auto of Windows Weekly segments. Long awaited.
Wow. I'm feeling a little leaky here.
Oh yeah! Wow, that's a story. Woo.
Yeah. For years, and I mean, this potentially like 10 years or more, I think, but probably 10 years-ish, Microsoft has been rumored to be working on a system where you could transfer ownership of a physical disc for an Xbox console to a digital, what Microsoft calls an entitlement, because we can't have simple words. And how would that work? And nobody really knows. I guess you could make the case maybe every one of these discs has some kind of unique identifier.
This is not new. They did entitlements for Windows 11 registration, right? They would take some sort of hash of your hardware, and then say, yeah, this hardware is entitled to own Windows,
like whatever,
and you don't have to ever ask for a serial number.
Yeah, but the trick here though is, when you could have these debates about physical media versus digital versions of games in this case, and one of the advantages of owning something on a physical disc is you own the thing, and you can sell it to someone else, and then they can play it, and you get the money, and you've earned back some of the money you paid for it or whatever. You could sell it to GameStop or something, right? So what happens to a disc when you, as the original owner of the game, perhaps get that digital entitlement, and then you sell it to someone else,
right?
And then they can't do that, right? I mean, that would have to be the case.
Yeah.
So the question was, like, how are they going to do this, right?
But how are you going to contend with, I bought a new machine, right? We battled that where you change your video card and all that stuff goes sideways. Right. You've got to be able to migrate.
There's always been this big question mark over it. So they finally came clean on this today. They announced they're doing this. It's called Disc to Digital. Xbox Series X and One. It must be S2, but X and One, Series, whatever, Series XS, and Xbox One owners will be able to digitize, which doesn't mean like ripping it off the disc, right? But their physical game collection. Now it's not going to be all games. It's only those games. Like, it's not Xbox 360 or older. It's only some of those games. They're going to add more over time. And there is this little bit of language somewhere in the original announcement where they kind of explain how this will work, which is that discs made for these systems do in fact have a unique code on them that will unlock this feature. Like, Microsoft has been planning to do this for a long time, right? And so that's what's making this work. Because otherwise, it's like, well, I don't quite understand. You could make a perfect digital copy, perhaps. Like, how does this work? And the way it works is just some code on the disk or something, basically. So,
I guess the question is, if somebody else has the disk and they put it on, does it just pull the license off of the old owner onto the new one?
I don't know. I mean,
possession being 9/10 of the law.
I have to pause briefly because someone has made an awesome graphic of me with
on the side of the Xbox.
The monolith. Oh, I love that.
The hair as ventilation is awesome.
I am getting that David Lynch thing going lately. So
are you in Carbonite? What exactly is
Carbonite,
happening here? Yeah.
course,
I have to go to the bathroom. Could someone get me out of this thing, please?
Well, I want this Xbox. I would buy
This is the Xbox.
this
for you.
Xbox.
This looks like I'm getting teabagged by a teenager while playing Call of Duty.
Oh, it's true to life, in other words. What does the plaque say?
What does it say? Oh, I don't know.
Let me see. I'll zoom in here. Hold on.
What does it say?
Can I zoom in?
It's the Paul Thurrott edition. Yeah.
Paul Thurrott edition.
There you go.
They should call it. It's like the throttled edition.
The
Throttled
edition.
Look at that hair.
The hair's
That's the
spectacular.
cooling segment. That's the part
That's
where
the cooling. The cooling is my
where the
head. I cool
hot air
through my
comes
head.
out.
That makes sense. Yeah. So the hot air goes
That
to the
is
top.
freaking awesome, Darren. Nice AI work.
That's Mazda.
Wow.
I also like it's the color of like an alien from like Alien Resurrection or something like that kind of.
Yeah.
Or like
that's
the
beautiful.
Prometheus
That's a work
movies
of
or whatever.
art.
Whew. All right, lost my way there. Okay, so there's that. That being digital, whatever. Last year, Asus came up with the first Xbox ROG Ally or ROG Xbox Ally, whatever they are, gaming handhelds. Right? These were like there were two versions. There was the low end and a higher end version. They're now are about to sell a new version, which is just the same thing, really. It's the same hardware. So it's the higher end, like the X version from last year, but it has a translucent case with gold and black elements, a slightly larger screen, 7.6 inches, I believe, versus 7 inches. It's OLED. It has HDR. Other than that, it's like the same specs, 24 gigs of RAM. I think it's 1 terabyte of storage. It's 1080p, 16:9, same CPU, the AMD mobile CPU, same expansion ports, etc., same Wi-Fi, whatever, same battery, blah blah blah. But last year when these things went on sale, the standalone, the higher end version of that was $999, and this thing it doesn't start. It's $1299, so $300 more.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, some of that's component crisis stuff. Some of it's special edition. There's also a $2,500 bundle, which includes an ROG Xbox Ally X20, which is the console, plus a what do you call it, like a XR or VR glasses or whatever. It's like a bundle with AR glasses, I guess we're calling them. So these are X-Real glasses, but done in partnership with ROG, which is part of Asus. So some kind of a D-brand kill switch and 68 watt adapter. I don't know what's normally there.
68 watts.
I know. Well, it's kind of a
PC.
Well, but these are not the same AMD processors you get in like computers, right? This is a Ryzen AI, but it's Z2 Extreme processor, so it's lower wattage, it's lower power, etc. So I don't know what.
Well,
the
I'm just
normal
thinking
one
for
is.
a handheld device, 65 watts is.
Oh
still
yeah,
a
no, that's
lot.
65 is standard in the PC space.
You are holding a flash, a light
Yeah.
bulb.
So
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, but I would guess the normal power adapter might be like 35 or 40 watts, something like that.
right.
But smaller, expensive. But
Take
if
that
you
on
like
the
the style, whatever. I mean,
It's pretty.
yeah,
Shiny.
it is pretty. Last week, I think it was, or a couple of weeks ago, we had a rumor about a limited edition Xbox Series. They were going to call it X25. Console has the translucent green style from the original. Well, they didn't actually use it on the
Paul
original
Thurrott's
Xbox.
face in it. My
Yeah, right. You can see it right. Yeah, you can see it right through me. It's not that hard. And then since then, Microsoft has confirmed this. So starting on November 13, they're going to sell this limited edition consoles, $900. Yeah, I know.
Everything's so expensive now. Wow.
When this version of the console launched in 2020, which was not translucent green, obviously, but this Xbox Series X with these specs, $500.
wow.
Yep.
I like the transparency,
I do
but
too.
of course I
I-
have
yeah.
the Xbox. I don't.
So when
Do people buy a second one? I mean, is that
Yeah, if you're a fan, Leo. No, I don't know. I mean, if you think back to the original Xbox, we kind of associate this translucent green thing with that, but the original Xbox was opaque black. Like the green see-through version of that console was the developer version, right? This is the one they seeded to developers who are going to make games for the console. They never, I'm not sure if they never sold it, but that is not what it looked like. Maybe eventually they sold something that looked like that, but the original Xbox was not translucent green. It was black. But this is, the color scheme of that goofy UI they had in the beginning. Remember before we had the Xbox 360 with the Blade UI. was that kind of translucent green thing. That was like the marketing colors or whatever. And, of course, the Xbox, breaking through the black thing was that translucent green color. It's cool. It's kind of, it's weird how this has become associated with Xbox, even though we've never really had anything to look like this, but people seem to like it. So keep doing it.
The reveal trailer is pretty cool because it starts in a bedroom in probably the 80s, right? When you were a kid and you got your first game machine, and then boom.
Yeah, I mean, the original Xbox dates back to 2001, and no one.
Not.
Yeah, that's things. Are you on dial-up?
Broken.
What's going on?
I don't know what's going on.
Your Sparks are sucking up all the bandwidth.
Oh, that might be it.
Sorry, we're launching a missile attack on a critical infrastructure in Idaho.
Sorry. Local AI is taking over, folks. It's all over.
Yep. So in conjunction, in fact, this was announced before they announced the console, but Xbox also announced a collection of hardware peripherals that are coming out from third parties, not from Microsoft. So like Razer, 8-Bit Do, Backbone, the guys that make that controller for the phone, etc. And almost all of these are that same translucent green thing, right? So if you want like a controller or a controller, charger, you can kind of sit it on like a cradle. Keyboard, which is not for console, obviously. In fact, a lot of these things are actually for PCs or mobile devices. The Backbone Pro Xbox 25th anniversary editions come in blue, orange, and crystal clear, but not green, which is kind of weird. But if you want a green version of that little phone controller, GameSir has one, or will have one called the X5 Lite. So if you want that color. So there's a bunch of stuff there, and okay, that's kind of fun. But the greatest thing, this might be the most excellent Xbox hardware announcement I've ever seen in my life. This is spectacular. IKEA has teamed up with Microsoft to launch a collection of furniture for gamers, and it's all inspired by Xbox.
Sure, because gamers have so much interest in the right furniture.
No, you actually, when you see this, you're going to want it. So right in that photo at the top is a green stool that is in the shape of a thumbstick.
Like a thumbtack. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, it's a thumbstick. Oh.
So when IKEA first started working with Microsoft on this, they showed them a bunch of designs, and everyone at Xbox got stuck on this thumbstick thing, and they were like, "You have to make this." And they were like, "The thing is, if we make it look exactly like a thumbstick, it's the most uncomfortable stool on the planet."
Yes.
So they actually worked for a while to make. So it's a little taller. It looks like the one on the Elite controller almost, and it's supposed to be the most awesome stool imaginable, and like it's supposed to be wicked comfortable.
It looks like it goes straight up your.
Yeah, if you're ever in like a public bike in a city somewhere, it's like that thing where you sit on it and it's in your intestines all of a sudden. But this thing, but it looks awesome. Like I could picture people buying it just to have a couple in their room, even if they never use it. It just looks fantastic. God. And of course, it's IKEA.
How much are they?
That's a good question, actually. I'm not really sure I know.
Those are so cool. If they're, $50, I might just get a couple.
I know. That's what I'm saying. They're really cool looking. So they're going to be on sale by the holidays. It's IKEA. So there's only one vowel in this word, but then, well, I guess Y is technically a vowel sometimes, but it's like the Ixtaby is the name. Nice. Like it's
YXSTABY.
Yep. No idea.
There's only one vowel in Xbox too. Like, why do you have to make it this hard?
I don't know.
Because it's IKEA.
Their product names are unbelievable.
They're all like that. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all like that.
They're very.
And you probably have to assemble this by hand.
Oh, that's right. So there's other things, right? So there's like a kind of a carousel table where you can open up the thing and you put all your stuff in there. There's honestly kind of a cool looking TV tray thing and a chair, blah blah blah, whatever. But I guess in Microsoft, like I'm going to get this wrong because I don't remember the name, but Microsoft products starting with the Zune have this like.
This guy sitting on the thumbstick does not look comfortable.
Yeah, he looks like you would look with that thing on your butt. But anyway, so Microsoft stuff or Xbox stuff now, it actually says like made with love in Seattle or something like that. So there is a Swedish version of that inside of each of these products. So when you build it, you'll see that. But when you put it together, you won't. You know what I mean? Oh, so like it's somewhere on the inside of each of these things. And it says something like, made with love in Sweden or something like that, and but it's in Swedish. Yeah, kind of fun.
Yeah, look at these people perched on this thing. Is it soft?
I don't know.
Okay, I guess we're just going to have to all get one. And
I just think it looks spectacular.
You know.
I think we should do a show all sitting on these.
Yeah, definitely. Why is everyone grimacing?
The next live event we do.
Paul looks like he's had to go to the bathroom for 2.5 hours. Is he okay?
Well, I'm going to be sitting on this. Wow. I like the pillows with the little controller thing.
Yeah.
I like all of it. Honestly, this whole collection is like, okay, this is kind of
hilarious.
Cool.
This is the, so this is kind of very IKEA. It's a wooden toolbox, but it also doubles as a stand for your laptop.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of neat.
I do too.
I would buy that.
I think the whole. If you look through each one of these things, like every one of them, you're like, oh, that's what the D-stick, the kind of
the D-stick plate,
the D-stick thing where you could hold it in front of you and get a tan, like if you're outside, is a little weird, but most of these things are actually really nice.
I might have to make a trip to IKEA this holiday season.
There you
Oh,
go.
look, see a little controller hook.
I know, it's awesome. Listen, everyone watching this has ADD, and they're looking at this and they're like, I need every one of these things.
I want it.
And it's certainly been my response. Like I just like the look of all this stuff.
Or you can get the thumbtack in black or green.
There you go.
I like that it's a thumbtack now, by the way.
Black thumbtack.
You're really emphasizing the pointy nature of it. Like,
Don't turn it over.
which actually, now that you've said it, it looks exactly like a thumbtack.
I'm glad they have the little grippy nubs on it so you won't accidentally slip off of your thumbtack.
Yeah. Well, if only there's a bit of a spike coming out of the bottom there. You can get it, keep it.
Maybe there is, and it could keep it in like grounded wherever it is.
Live up to its thumbtack roots.
I want to call out Kevin's joke about, I don't know if this was a good IKEA.
Yeah.
Oh, Kevin.
I immediately penalty him. That's
He is our
He needs to
pun
feel shame.
master.
No, I like it.
It's bad.
I like
It's
it.
very bad.
I'm a big fan of the dad joke things. To me, like,
I mean, it might have been a typo, but
No. Kevin is. This is his living. This is his life.
Is it?
When
Yeah.
he does this in our editorial board meetings as well. He's
like
a
it.
master of this.
that's terrible.
It's good to have a skill.
Feel shame.
it's
Feel
terrible.
shame.
You're terrible. I love you.
Yeah, terrible. That's
Don't ever change.
The Canadian hockey thing. Go to box for 2 minutes. Feel shame.
And then come out and beat the crap out of somebody.
Yeah. And
Just come out of there with that thumbstick thing and just jam it into somebody.
Be ready to go. Elbows up. You're gonna tackle the rock star thing. I love this.
Yeah. So
What a mess.
I don't know if you heard, GTA Grand Theft Auto 6 is coming out this November. There is a guy who has been leaking gameplay footage on YouTube or wherever, for the past couple of weeks. And Rockstar's doing everything they can. They've asked Microsoft and Google to try to hunt this guy down.
Yeah.
To prevent
So these are real. It's real.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm real enough that Rockstar's upset about it.
Yeah, they're losing their
They
minds.
say it's spoilers.
Right. Well, they're going to look. This is a marketing opportunity for these guys. This game's finally coming out for years of delays.
Years.
And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. They're going to have the first extended look of this thing on Netflix for some reason, and then later in the day
So
it will be
bizarre.
on YouTube. I know.
Yeah.
So Netflix is going to have this one really good day for a couple hours, I guess.
Nobody's buying Netflix for that. Oh my God.
I mean, no, I don't think so either. But I mean, plus, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what the point of that is. But the first extended look of GTA 6 is as we record this tomorrow, meaning Thursday, August 27th, 3 p.m. Eastern time, and then at 9 p.m. Eastern on the same day. It will just be on YouTube, and anyone can see it, I guess. But yeah, so
Eastern, and so they're waiting till the kids come home from school. What is that time? That's weird.
yeah, I mean
That's weird.
It kind of makes sense.
After the after-school special on Netflix this week.
Right. Well, you'll be able to beat up hookers soon, guys. So it's coming. I don't know what's
It's
happening
so
here.
strange.
I know. The whole thing is so bizarre. So I mentioned Amiga last week, and in just a weird coincidence of timing. So the new Commodore, right, has announced they're bringing the Alien Breed series, which is a series of Amiga games, right, from the late 80s, early 90s, to the PC and to modern consoles. I don't think they're like remastered in any way. I think it's just the games, but ported to these platforms, so you'll be able to get it through Xbox, through Steam and GOG and Epic, I believe, and PlayStation. And a month or two later, will be on the Switch as well. And so there were 5 of these games. As these games, these were big games. These, for whatever it's worth, these were big games, especially the first couple on the Amiga, because Wolfenstein 3D came out, and then eventually Doom. One of these games is a 3D kind of a first-person thing, and they, it took them a while, but they eventually figured out how to do that kind of game on the Amiga as well, just in time for Commodore to go out of business. But so why is Commodore putting this thing out? It's a good question. But the way they describe it is they are doing work for game, part of their mission as like what's the name of what do you call this thing? It's like they're a public benefit corporation, is they are trying to preserve gaming history and expand access to these games. It is kind of notable that these games are not coming out for any Commodore or Amiga computer, like it's PC and console, right? Mm-hmm. And they do talk about that, like, we have more plans for that kind of stuff. But for right now, it's like, we have this opportunity. We're friends with these, the guys that made these games, and we're just going to make this happen so people can, experience these games, which I have to say, at least the first couple anyway, were really, really good back in the day. So you can add it to your wish list on Steam. I think they come out in late September, so we're not too far away from that. But it's kind of, I like anything like this. It's kind of cool to me. So it's
all nostalgic, but nostalgic makes money right now.
That's true. Yeah, the people who are old enough to be nostalgic for this stuff have money now, so we can like all these things we could not afford to buy in the early '90s. It's like,
they've also had a period of time where they weren't targeted at all, because you'd aged out of the primary targeting. Right. Nostalgia is targeting that other bracket.
Yeah, and whatever Atari is now is doing the same kind of stuff. Like they're very concerned about this game preservation stuff, and they're buying up, these like ancient studios and collections of these game makers, and to make sure these games. Yeah, this is good stuff. I like this kind of thing.
Nostalgia ain't what it used to be, though. I have to.
Yes, I'm nostalgic for when nostalgia is what it used to be. Yeah, exactly.
It used to be great.
Yeah. All right, Groucho. Anyway,
you keep this up. We're going to have to do an Xbox segment. I mean, an Amiga segment for you. Xbox.
I'm looking. I'm hoping every week.
Every week, a new Amiga
Commodore Corner.
I'm going to go right back to my roots, baby. This is I'm gonna glide out at the end of my career the way I went in.
I think we need a theme song.
I don't think the world needs more than 640 by 200. I'm just saying.
It's Commodore Corner time.
So I never thought of Commodores being anything naval related, which is stupid because that's the name, right? But the other thing is, like, the classic Commodore logo with the two little lines. You know what the name of that thing is?
No.
Chicken lips. And once you know that, you'll never not see. You've ruined it. You'll never not see chicken lips when you look at that logo.
Yeah.
That's hysterical.
Sorry, everybody.
Thanks, Jack Tramiel.
Yep. Oh God, I miss him so much. That bastard. Okay, so and then finally, Nvidia has their GeForce Now streaming service, and it is now supported on Mozilla Firefox. So if you were not using this for some reason, or for whatever reason, and if this was the reason, I should say, you can now play games. It previously was only Chromium-based browsers, I guess. I think.
Chicken lips.
I think Safari as well.
It really is chicken lips.
Chicken lips. Yeah, that logo is from the mid 1960s. Like this was drawn on paper by some guy.
They paid somebody money.
Yeah.
Yep.
That is the worst logo.
Well, it's iconic. No.
Another word.
In the literal sense.
It's unique. What am I looking for? I don't know. We need more chicken lips. That's
chicken lips. I wish you hadn't told. I can never see that again.
I know.
It's like ruined everything now.
Once you,
I'm so sorry.
Once you,
you know,
see the Arch logo as a fat guy sitting in front of his computer, you can.
There's a lot of this stuff. Like if the Wendy's logo has some little thing in it, and FedEx. There's also something with the FedEx logo. I remember, but there's all these, like, a lot of logos have some little coded message
puns
in
them. Yeah.
Yeah.
You get little pause.
Well, let's see. I think this is a good time to pause because guess what? The best part of the show, well, we just had it. The second best part of the show is coming up. The back of the book. Now would be a good time, though, to tell you a little bit about... Oh, what are you doing there, Richard?
I'm lost.
Get out of here.
Help me.
Get out of here, Richard. You don't belong there.
Let me go away.
No. Our entire enterprise, good and bad, brought to you by the great folks at Club Twit. You might have noticed this show had one ad. That doesn't actually cover costs. Now, some of our other shows have more ads. Sometimes this show has many ads. It really goes up and down. But I could tell you that this year, so far, here we are entering into September soon, the advertising only covered about 60% of our overall costs, most of which is staff and hosts. Who covered the other 40%? You did, the Club Twit members. We are so grateful to you because we would have to cut back. We really cut to the bone a few years ago. We shut the studio down. We canceled shows. We laid off some of our favorite people. But, and I'm proud of what we've done to keep it alive, thanks to Lisa, who really knows how to run a business. But she was smart. About 5 years ago, she said, we really need to get support from our listeners. And that's why we started Club Twit. Now, enough crying poor. Let me tell you what you get for your $10 a month. Yes, that's what it costs. Besides all these shows, and I don't know how many it is, 15, 16 shows you can listen to without ads. And we put chapter markers in the shows because we don't have ads, so we know the timings exactly. You also get access to the wonderful Club Twit Discord. That's where all those crazy images and the fun stuff and the chit chat and all that stuff happens. We love the club. It's a great place to hang out. And there's always, there's always something interesting happening in the club. Let me show you some of the things going on in our club. The sleep club. Okay. No sleep. Oh, I get it. No. Oh, wake up. This week in Commodore and Amiga. This is all in the Club Twit Discord. This is what you're missing if you're not a member. I want
that computer.
Isn't that great? Look at that. Insert disk 1 to continue. And you have the smallest 5.5-inch floppy I've ever seen in your hands. Besides all of that, you also get a lot of special programming, like our AI user group, our photo show. We have so many things we do in the club. Jeff's coming up, Jeff Atwood, with our big T-shirt giveaway and the Off by One show. All of that is supported by club members. And we do those club shows because we, like the book club and the media club and the photo club and all of that, because we can, because those are not advertising supported. They're club supported. So it doesn't go into my pocket, doesn't go into Lisa's pocket. In fact, I'm not going to complain, but we haven't been paid a number of times this year. But that's fine with me. I want to keep this going. I like what we do, and I think it's important, and I hope you think so too. And if you believe in it, and you support it, and you listen or watch, twit.tv/clubtwit. Get in the club. We would love to have you. Now, enough begging. Let's get back to the action.
There
and the back of the book.
Begging.
I'm turning into PBS. I know. It's actually interesting. They have, I'm told, about a 5% membership. 5% of the audience joins, which is amazing. We have less than 2%. If we could get to 5%, advertising wouldn't matter at all. Support everything we do. We could even grow. So I'd like to get to that point, but I don't want to do it the way they do it. We're not going to do auctions and pledge drives and any of that stuff. All right, Paul, your turn.
I would love to do a pledge drive. So if that
you want to do a pledge drive? Get a phone bank. You could all be sitting on those tacks.
Yeah, gotta have tote bags. Just tell me how terrible. She's like, I don't want to give you any money. I just want to complain about your stupid podcast. I'm like, all right, talk to me.
Hit me. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Pull the rod on the phone bank. Yes, I'm sorry. No,
No, I meant it. I really
now that I just said that. So yesterday, I think it was, I'm out in the kitchen. I open my iPad up, set it up. I bring up a YouTube video. It's 3 guys talking about Amiga stuff. my wife comes in, I'm doing the dishes or whatever. She goes, what is this? And I'm like, it's like three old guys talking about technology. Can you believe anyone watches this crap? She's like, you even listen to yourself? Like, I'm like
three old guys talking about technology. Where can I find that?
That's not
I know.
a thing.
Also, when you were just doing the ad, I got an email from Xbox. You can pre-order the Xbox Wireless Controller X25 Special Edition in OG translucent green, which, as I pointed out, is not the OG color. But I have to say, this thing looks kind of awesome. And the thing that is OG on this is the buttons are those original colors, like yellow, blue, red, and green. Right, the four, YXBA, whatever.
They never did a translucent green.
Well, not as the official console. I mean, I think there were probably special edition things here and there, but like that was not actually the original. It was the like pre-release color. Like that was the thing they showed up before they released it. But I don't know. It's kind of weird how this was not the original color. I don't.
Yeah, it's kind of the Mandela effect. You think maybe it was, right?
Yeah, we all remember it, but it's like, it was black, right? I mean, the thing was a tank, like it was a black tank.
Over here, yeah.
Yeah, you could kill someone.
We don't have tote bags, but we do have these fine T-shirts.
Yep. We're actually having a kind of a hard time getting rid of them. I don't know what's going on.
For your $20 pledge.
Yeah, I won't send you one.
Yeah, right.
Otherwise, you're getting one.
All right, we got 20 minutes before.
I know. I'm killing all the time.
Because we want to get to whiskey. Go ahead.
So I won't spend any time on this, but Google has the Discover feed. It's on their phones. You can get it in the Google app on iPhone, whatever. They're going to let people, I mean, you kind of already do this, but you're literally going to be able to go into this thing and be like, I only want to see news about this one topic. I'm begging you, do not ever do this. This is the thing that sounds so good, but it's the reason for all of the divide we have in the world now. It's like your ability not to listen to to anything that's even slightly against what you believe is the biggest problem we have in our society today. And my God, like just this huge problem. So it's kind of a big topic, and that 10 seconds is all I have. So whatever, but goddamn, just don't do that. New version of PowerToys just came out yesterday. That's not super surprising, but there's a bunch of stuff going on here. But the big one is there's a new utility called Windows Hopper. So instead of Alt-Tab, it's like Alt-Back-Tick, and then you can tab only between the open windows of the app that's current. So if you have like multiple File Explorer windows or whatever Office app, you don't see all the clutter. You just see the windows in that one app. So that's actually a really good idea. But there's also a bunch of just major improvements across like Command Palette, Quick Accent, Zoom It. Zoom It one's amazing. So it's like a demo. I watched a Mark Razinovich video about this, but you can you can have two displays. So it's sort of like the PowerPoint display view where you have your slides and then what the audience is seeing, but for the live presentation thing you might be doing with the screen, I guess I call it screen capture, whatever, the screen presentation, whatever. So awesome. A lot of stuff there. So really cool. And just real quick, Parallels Desktop every year comes out with a new version. So 27 is out. This is the virtualization platform for the Mac that's primarily used to run Windows on the Mac. It is the way I do it. Unfortunately, you can't just buy this thing outright. You have to kind of buy it every year or whatever. Well,
that's the secret, isn't it? That's why there's a new version every year.
Yeah, as I said, that I actually think you might be able to buy a perpetual version, but it's the same cost as 2 years of the subscription, and depending on how this thing updates, you might actually kind of want to, I don't know, you might want to subscribe. But anyway, it's a great product, and they don't really talk about this, but I feel like a lot of what they're doing, so there's a lot of graphics acceleration stuff. They're not talking about it for games, but, for games, I think it's going to be the big thing. But they're talking about it for apps like that Blender or whatever that might use graphics acceleration. But anyway, if you're a Mac user, I'm sorry, but this is available as well.
You're a Mac user, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Look, you don't know any better. It's not your fault.
It's not your fault.
We all make mistakes.
It ain't your fault.
It's okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think Richard Campbell has a run-as coming up very soon.
I do. Published today. When I talk with Mike O'Neill, I'm talking about the new security features in PowerShell 7. PowerShell 7 has been out for a little while now, but the big news coming down the pipe, and I'm sure I'll have more shows on this, is the fact that they're going to start shipping 7 by default with Windows. And one of the big reasons is the security side of things. And this is what Mike and I got into in a big way. Because PowerShell is incredibly powerful. And that's why the bad guys like it so much. And so if they can get into your machine and they can run PowerShell, they can do a lot of harm fast. And often you need PowerShell for various bits of functionality and so forth. And today, with inside of PowerShell 7, especially in 7.3, they've got features for containing what code can run and how it can run. So you can set up manifests around, yes, that script can run, but only for these rules under this context, that sort of thing. So you can no longer allow any random PowerShell code to run. You can be very specific about what runs and how it runs and what the limits are and all that. You just have to spend enough time. This is your classic just enough administration problem. You need these powerful tools for some of the work you do. You just don't want them being used for things you don't want them used for. And so we really nailed down a bunch of the thinking around that, and some great links in the show notes too. Mike writes a bunch of PowerShell. He does this big Exchange add-in that anybody supporting Exchange server needs. But it was great to dig from a guy who writes a lot of useful PowerShell, how to write secure PowerShell.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Really good. Yeah. You know, they were saying in the Discord, and, you know, I listen to them religiously, that Paul has a theme for his, little Halo theme for his segment. Yeah. But you don't have a theme for the whiskey segment.
It's true.
So I asked...
You can kind of feel what's about to happen here. Jeez. Hey! Wow. It's like we're shipping up to Boston.
Yeah. Here we go. Everybody.
A little Irish reel.
On the cupboard, there's a bottle in the way. Wow. With a label from a Tuesday and a cork that's gone astray. Richard's got the tasting glass. The window screws and cheer. It's something weird from my closet, and it's a whiskey time this year.
Okay.
Don't you think that's a good theme for the show?
That's hilarious.
That's freaking spectacular is what that is.
So, ladies and gentlemen, without further fiddling, it's time for Richard Campbell's whiskey segment.
Well, after that, last week we talked about Red Bank, the Kiefer Sutherland whiskey, and I mentioned that it's a blend from Alberta, and the master blender was this guy, Michael Marcil, and that he came to note working for Kruger for making a whiskey called Spice Box.
Oh,
guess what I found in the liquor store?
Spice Box.
So well, we have to do that. And more importantly, it's based out of Quebec. And we've talked about a lot of Canada. We've certainly British Columbia and Newfoundland and down into Cape Breton and so forth. We never really talked about Quebec proper. And Quebec is, massive. It's one of the biggest provinces in the whole country, which means, and we're talking one of the largest countries in the world, right? And Quebec itself is really made up of three distinct landscapes, although the vast majority is this thing we call the Canadian Shield. Maybe you've heard the term. If you don't know what the Canadian Shield actually is, in geological terms, it's a craton. What the heck is a craton? Cratons are the original rock from the formation of the Earth. If you want to find a 4 billion year old plus rock, you go to the Canadian Shield. And this is rock that formed when there was only one continent during Pangea. Now, it's much bigger than Quebec. It's Labrador and Ontario and Manitoba and Saskatchewan and even bits of Alberta and Northwest Territories. And none of it even stretches into the U.S. as well. But who cares about that? And it also had some of the biggest ice sitting on top of it. So this is really rock that was scraped almost bare by the last big ice age. And so today its soils are very thin, although it's full of valuable minerals. This is the rock that the ice couldn't crush. And so it's quite waterproof. And so if you look at a map of the northern parts of Quebec and any of that whole Shield region, covered in lakes, it's also awesome hydroelectric territory. But most of the people in Quebec are down in the southern part of this area we call the St. Lawrence lowlands. And this was formed also out of the Ice Age. The ice stretched well past that, but this was a weak spot in the craton. And so it dug down deeper. And then as the ice retreated at the end of the Ice Age, salt water rushed in and filled the area to the thing that geologists refer to as the Champlain Sea. And the nice thing about oceans, or seas anyway, is that they build up sediments. And so that as the ground bounced back from the Ice Age, that all became above sea level and drained off and becomes this incredibly fertile land. That's why the Great Plains across the North American continent are full of great land as well. It's all wildly fertile from being a sea for some period of time. The southern edge of Quebec is the actually north end of the Appalachians. This is more old rock. So it's one thing to talk about the shield, but the Appalachians are the remains of a Himalayan class mountain range from the Pangean era. So billions of years old. The Appalachians are actually older than the Atlantic Ocean. You can find geological connections from rock all the way down in Alabama through Newfoundland and then over to Scotland and Norway, because they all used to be part of one landmass that split up as the Atlantic Rift expanded and created an
I
ocean.
think this might be the farthest back you've gone in the history.
Digging back to formation of planets.
Going to Pangea, ladies and gentlemen.
We did a little Pangea today. But let's move ahead up past the Ice Age. Our first Paleo-Indian hunter-gatherers show up in that part of the world 12,000 plus years ago, chasing megafauna, the giant bison and caribou and things like that. And that stratifies into the First Nations that many still exist today in the different ecological zones. So the Inuit in the north and northeast, the Cree around the Hudson's Bay and James Bay, and the Algonquin down into the Ottawa River watershed. The Micmac, which we talked about before, in the eastern maritime region that includes Cape Breton and Nova Scotia. And then, of course, the Iroquois along the St. Lawrence. There's a real, we talk about when did Europeans first come to North America, and of course this is great, L'Anse de Meadow in the northern part of Newfoundland where the Vikings clearly came. And there's a question of, did they ever get down the St. Lawrence estuary, which they almost certainly did. Like some of the archaeological evidence on that site has things that are not from there, that came from further south and west. So it's very likely the Iroquois and who have been there literally for millennia encountered the Vikings for as long as they stayed. But when we talk traditional European, the explorers, it's Jacques Cartier, the French explorer in 1535, comes up the estuary. He expects to find empty wilderness. He is incorrect. The Iroquois are running a very advanced society along the river corridor. That's farms, storehouses, villages, huge trading routes. It's very busy, and his documentation is quite extensive. And they do, on his third journey into that area in 1541, attempt to establish a town. They called it Charlesbourg Royal in the area that today is Quebec City in 1541. It, like most attempts in the 16th century, does not go well and is abandoned by 1543. And largely, the French will not be back until, and we talked about this in the Cape Breton and the Glen Breton episode, Samuel de Champlain. So this is 70 years later in 1608, having gotten Acadia up and running on the east coast there, he heads up the St. Lawrence. And he's got the notes from 70 years earlier from Cartier, and he's expecting all of these villages, and most of them are gone. And it's in some debate there was always conflict between the different native peoples in that area, but the other potential here is smallpox, that the disease wafted through this area as it propagated from the south and just shut down a lot of folks. But the trade routes are there. There's a lot of good land. Champlain does get set up the new Quebec City roughly in the same location as well. And he calls it Quebec. We call it Quebec City today. And this is not before there's a province or anything like that, just Quebec. And it's actually a Francophone interpretation of an Iroquois word for where the river narrows. So as the estuary of the St. Lawrence Gulf narrows up and really becomes a river, that's the defensible point. That's where they established Quebec in this area they now call New France. Quebec City being the only walled city in North America because lots of conflict. And Champlain will live out the rest of his life in that area. He'll pass away at the age of 61 in 1635. What we now know as Montreal today is founded in 1642, called Ville Marie. And although originally a religious mission and frontier settlement, it has better access further up the river and into the grasslands and farming areas. So it functions more effectively, although again, not a big colony. They're mostly doing fur trade. That's the focus, is they're on the main trade routes. And so these are trade routes that were established by the natives, and they're just utilizing them. And it's all about the beaver pelts at this time. The real colonialization aspects for New France kick off when Louis XIV gets control of France in 1663, and he realizes that the Brits are going nuts, putting in population as quickly as possible with colonists and convicts, whatever they can get onto the new land. So he does the same. And so finally does this thing called the Fil de Roi. The Fil de Roi, which is the king's daughters. He actually sends women to into New France to increase the population, encourages rapid reproduction. But of course, they are mostly trading. And this is a good time for New France. For New France at this point now stretches from the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of St. Lawrence along the Ohio and Mississippi rivers. This is all the inland stretch west of where the 13 colonies are. The pressure really only comes on New France when the Hudson's Bay Company is established and gets control of what is known as Rupert's Land, which we talked about as before as well in 1670. And that really starts rolling into potential conflicts that will get to the point of the Treaty of Utrecht in 1713, where Acadia goes to the British and things go very poorly for that. That becomes the Acadian diaspora over the next 30, 40 years, while the trade continues in nonstop. Arguably the height of New France is in the 1720s, 1730s. And all of that winds to an end by the conflict known as the Plains of Abraham, where the British forces capture Quebec City and take control. Basically, New France is over at that point, and that will result in the Treaty of Paris in 1763. But it doesn't mean that the people disappear, right? The French people are still there. The British have learned something from the catastrophe that was the Acadian diaspora that leads to the Cajuns, all those sorts of things. In fact, they don't even attempt to suppress the French culture because they have a bigger problem. And that bigger problem is those 13 colonies. Yeah, sure, the Treaty of Paris was signed in 1763, but 1773 and the Boston Tea Party is just not that far away, and the British Crown needs friends. And so they're all in on trying to keep the French engaged to manage those troublesome colonies. And we kind of know where the story goes from here. There's a revolution, and the Quebecois continue to function with the British alongside in what would become Upper and Lower Canada. Now, the relationship of alcohol in New France compared to the British relationship are quite different. Where the Brits are very big on ales and porters and ultimately whiskey, and although in those early days, especially production of rum out of the sugar plantations from the Caribbean, where they have the molasses as a byproduct of making sugar and they need to make it into rum, the French don't look at it that way. Wine is the drink of choice. Brandy, if you've got money. You might have a little bit of local beer, but it's just not the same thing at all. The establishment of major manufacturing of alcohol in the region of Quebec, specifically in Montreal, comes from a guy named John Molson. Yes, that Molson, as in Canadian beer, Molson. 1786. I've mentioned him before. He arrives from England to produce beer initially in Montreal. This is when Upper and Lower Canada really starts to form. Molson will get into whiskey making in Canada in 1799, again in Montreal. Although his son Thomas will move up to Kingston, which is in Upper Canada, and then Ontario, because that's more availability of grain there. There's better farming for barley and wheat, and they'll be doing it that way. He'll end up back in Montreal in the 1830s. Canada actually forms the country in 1867. That's Confederation, and we immediately get into the temperance game. So, and I mentioned these before. The Scott Act, also known as the Canadian Temperance Act, was in 1878, where one Richard William Scott, a cabinet minister under Alexander Mackenzie, is trying to deal with the social and religious conflicts. But I would point out this is very much British culture. Now, the rules were simple. Let local counties, municipalities hold votes on whether or not to prohibit alcohol sales. And so you end up with that one county being dry, that next county is not, and so forth. They also have the McCarthy Act in 1883, which standardized liquor licensing and how it can be sold. It's roughly at the same time. This all sort of goes nuts in 1890 when there's so much conflict over all of this. And They try and create their new rules. This is where bonded warehousing comes in. So you try and keep quality products together. Canada will be actually one of the first countries to define the concept of whiskey, right? In the 1890s, the US won't have a definition until the 1900s, and even Scotland even later than that. But I just would remind everyone that the whole temperance thing, very English, very evangelical Christian. And the Quebecois were not that way. They were Catholic. Wine was a big part of their culture. Introducing your children to drink early, drinking to excess was not a big thing. And so there just wasn't the same issues. And so as prohibition starts to rear its head, the Quebecois largely just stay out of it. They're not interested at all. That being said, there's still, because of the Scott Act, there was certain municipalities that did make alcohol sales illegal. And during World War I, they generally prohibit the sale of alcohol, mostly for resourcing during the war. And Quebec even drags their feet on that. They do prohibit the sale of spirits in 1918, towards the end of World War I, although they always have sale of beer, wine, and cider. By 1919, even 90% of Quebec municipalities are dry, at least for spirits. But that all ends in 1921, when the province creates the Commission de la Cure de Quebec, which really is they socialize the sale of spirits, government only, right as U.S. prohibition kicks off. In 1922, again, during prohibition, Quebec creates the Society de Alcohols, also known as Maison de Fertels, or MDF, to standardize the supply chain for moving spirits around. This is specifically about bottling, marketing of wine and spirits, branding, private label, all of those things. Literally a government entity to handle it all. And that rapidly spins into some craziness. When the Bronfman family shows up in 1924, they form the Distillers Corporation, directly associated with the Distillers Corporation in the UK, and get to the business of selling alcohol to the United States illegally by farming it through the notorious Saint Pierre and Miquelon. These are two little islands that are the remains of New France off the coast of Newfoundland. And so although Canada could not sell alcohol directly to America, Canada could sell it to France. They sold it into these islands. And where it went from there, not their problem. Of course, gets out of control. And at the end of Prohibition in 1934, the Bronfmans are arrested and prosecuted. They will ultimately settle. But the company we're talking about now, when it comes to Spicebox, is a company called Kruger. Kruger was formed in 1904 as a paper business. Joseph Kruger was a paper merchant out of New York City, and he moved to Montreal to set up his own company. And he was purely a merchant. He bought and sold paper. He did not manufacture it in any way. His son, Jean Kruger, takes over in the 1920s, and he's the one who starts getting into factories. He buys the Bromptonville mill in 1950. And so Kruger, the modern company, is known for forestry, industrial manufacturing, and paper products. And the third generation, Joseph Kruger II, acquires the MDF, the entity, the government entity for producing alcohol, as a diversification play for Kruger. And that's in 2006. And then in 2009, this is when Michael Marcil actually joins the company. And he has a BSc in chemistry from the University of Montreal from 1977 and had been spending his entire career making flavored products, beverages, wine, spirits, yogurt, biscuit, nutrition bars, you name it. So he joins Kruger Wine and Spirits in 2009, and within a year makes Spicebox. I notice we just not have a lot of story about whiskey per se here, because for the most part, whiskey is simply not made in Quebec. It's not a thing. There is some craft spirits today. Maybe we'll get to one of those one of these days. But this particular whiskey is a combination. It's a blend of 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old, and 6-year-old whiskeys from Alberta. It's very much the same story we got from Red Bank, but I got the Red Bank story figuring out the Spicebox story. So they are blenders, and they're marketers, and they're and bottlers. They do not make whiskey. They buy it from elsewhere. And they've done very well. In 2022, Kruger was doing 500,000 cases of spirits annually, and as well as 2 million ready-to-drink beverages and 1.9 million cases of wine. Also in 2022, they rebrand the company as Station 22, as in from 1922, which was when the MDF was formed. This is an inexpensive whiskey. I have not tried it. You're just watching me open the bottle right now. It's beautifully labeled. If you go on the website, they've got all this branding around prohibition and the craziness around that. None of that is important at all. It's got nothing to do with the actual product in any way. You know, you're talking about a country, you're talking about the province that didn't have prohibition, talking about making a prohibition product. All right, I have just opened the bottle for the first time and I can smell the spice from here. And the line about the spices is really that they used to ship that illegal whiskey in spice boxes
to hide its.
It smells of cinnamon. I wonder if this is a variation on Fireball. Oh, okay. It's not as bad. It's not the fiery like Fireball. It's not crazy. It is a very much a spice flavored whiskey. It has virtually no heat. It's only 35% alcohol, which nominally means it doesn't even qualify as a spirit. It has to be at least 40% for that. And the fact that it has a lot number, like they've really dressed this up to be pretty.
It's all story, isn't it?
It's all story for a blended whiskey. At a $30 Canadian, how can you go wrong? Right?
Sounds like it's fun, right?
It's fun. It's inexpensive. It's something different. You know what this is? Whiskey for people who don't like whiskey.
That's me.
That's exactly what this is. This is whiskey for someone who does not like
this
whiskey.
tastes
the
like
Zima of whiskey.
It tastes like a baked good. That's wonderful.
You're totally right. It's like a baked good, right?
It's a Cinnabon of whiskeys. I think it is a
harmless.
Cinnabon of
It's a
whiskey.
little
Cinnabon of
sweet.
whiskey.
It's a little spicy. You can give that to your kid. That's fine.
You could give it to you. I wouldn't recommend. We're not recommending that, but you could.
And each batch hand selected. Really, kids? Really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hand
I mean,
reached out.
I'm really glad that I got lot 1372 because 1373
You don't want.
wouldn't be worth it.
You don't want 71.
No.
Terrible.
It's easy to make fun of this. It's a fun story, but It's not a profound whiskey in any way. But if you found somebody who didn't like whiskey, pour them one of these. Surprise them. They won't hate it.
We're shipping up to Canada.
There we go.
Windows Weekly whiskey here. It's something weird.
I'm gonna have to live with that song now.
I like it.
I'm gonna need a drink.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's the whiskey segment, and that's Windows Weekly for this week. I hope
an
you've
earworm.
enjoyed this episode and our
For the road now.
visit from the Irish Rovers.
It's Windows Weekly whiskey. See you again next year.
Well, no, next week.
Next week.
I'll get them to rewrite that part. We only do this once a year. We do Windows Weekly every week, every Wednesday, right around 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1800 UTC. You can watch us do it live on YouTube, Twitch, X, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Kick, or if you're in the club Twit Discord. After the fact, we put the show up on our website, twit.tv/WW. Also, of course, on YouTube, there's a dedicated Windows Weekly channel. And in fact, when you go there, you'll also see a dedicated Windows Whiskey channel because, or go to twit.tv/whiskey because we're putting all of these up as individual segments, which is great. Thanks to
A
Kevin.
couple new ones just went up. So they look great.
They didn't have the theme song, though.
No. It's a whole other league now.
Yeah. Thank you, Suno, for that one. That's fun. Paul Thurrott is at thurrott.com. If you become a premium member, you'll get a copy of all of his books, including the Field Guide to Windows 11, Windows Everywhere, and de-shitify Windows. Or you can go to leanpub.com if you're already a premium member and get them for yourselves. Mr. Richard Campbell's at runesradio.com. That's where you'll find his shows, Run as Radio and .NET Rocks. Thank you, gentlemen. It's been grand. I have to run off and do a different show. Intelligent Machines is coming up. Christina Warren will be our guest.
Hi to Christina.
Yeah.
Ages. She's great.
She's, of course, at GitHub, but she's also a local AI fanatic and can fill us in on what Apple has released and these two new models that just came out today.
Very exciting.
It's going to be very exciting. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time on Windows Weekly.
If you like what you heard and you want more of this week's top stories in tech, well, subscribe to Tech News Weekly. Every Thursday, I talk with the journalists making and breaking the tech news.